Olivius had exposed his fangs. Arbiter had already displayed their dominance and was the first to advance into the top 4. If it was any other team, they would be getting carried away by their happiness, but to Arbiter, this was things going as expected. The second battle for advancement into the semifinals. Aslan Empire team versus Maya Empire team. Anyone else might have felt restraining fear to be matched against the Aslan Empire, but not the Mayans. As a representative of one of the top forces of the Milky Way Alliance, the Mayans did not fear any country. Just like Atlantis, the Mayans had an attitude and a confidence of their own. As for their heritage and cultural background, it was also something that the Ghanaians could not compare to. The Ghanaians was just a backwater race that was conquered by mankind. After mixing with mankind for so many years, they started to become megalomaniacs who thought of themselves as capable. However, the Mayans were different. Historically speaking, they were the second civilization in the world to experience a renaissance, after Atlantis. The mechanical advancements and accumulations of mankind could only be ranked after them. Aslan was possibly the representative of the highest level mankind had attained today. If Aslan's power was considered to be the third age of man, then the Mayans would definitely be considered to be the ones who ruled the prior era. This battle would be worth seeing. Of course, winning was definitely not enough. Olivius was so arrogant, Aurora and Oz had been unable to sit still since much earlier. Moreover, the Royal Princess Highness was here personally to observe the battle, so a magnificent victory had to be attained. The Mayans entered under the lead of Varus, the glorious, shining Mayan race. However, this group of crystalline people looked too weak. Why? Aslan possessed a deep understanding of their crystalline civilization. Their mecha were very brittle as befit a crystal. Furthermore, they also knew of their capabilities. The Aslanians were well prepared. Regardless of whether it was Oz or Aurora, as the outstanding representatives of mankind, they would definitely be bringing glory to mankind. Varus walked to the front of the stage, waiting for the opponents to show up. This day had finally come. The Maya Empire had waited for this day for a very, very long time. Aurora walked to the front. Was it going to be another heavenly battle? That was too unrealistic. If the opponent was the Ghanaians, he could also call for a heavenly battle. However, not if he was against the Mayans. The long-distance attacks of the Mayans were most suitable for group attacks, so without a doubt, he would definitely be kited to death. The Aslanians were not as rash as the people of Arbiter. Moreover, there was no need for them to humiliate their opponent on their home ground. Even though the Mayans were low profile, their strength was not to be underestimated. The referee walked to the front. Team leaders, please come forward to draw the lots. The red side will send up their first team member. Varus did not move, he was looking towards the sky. His body was shining, and the shine was getting brighter and brighter. All the Mayans stood up, and they looked at the time on the skylink. Everyone was looking at the strange Mayans. What exactly were they waiting for? Aslan time, afternoon 2 o'clock. Maya Empire's team will choose the heavenly battle. Aurora stood rooted to the ground. What did this mean? There was actually someone who would dare to insult the great Aslan Empire? Targeting the Aslan Empire and calling for a team leader heavenly battle? Had he gone mad? Had his brain been struck by lightning? Everyone was dumbstruck and was looking at Varus. Nobody knew what was happening. Were they really challenging the Mayans? All along the Mayans had kept a low profile, the Mayans who were known to be yes men, the Mayans who were cautious. In the Milky Way Alliance, they had always given away their benefits. And if they ran into any disputes, they would almost always back down. What was happening? All the Mayans who were present raised their hands into the air, mumbling words in their mouths. It was the Mayans' language, not the common language of the Milky Way Alliance. Of all the people present, there were only very few who could understand it, but Aina was one of them. The Mayans were celebrating. It seemed like some seal had been touched, and their agreement with a certain person had ended. And from now on, the Mayans had regained their freedom. Is this bunch of crystal people crazy? Retards, and behaving atrociously on Aslan's territory? They are going to have bad luck. Maybe they are trying to find a way out so that it would not be too embarrassing when they lose. It doesn't seem like it. This should not be the case, considering the character of the Mayans. Seeing that they are being overly sensitive, could it be that something has happened? Lear's expression turned heavy. He could understand the Mayans' language. This meant that the Mayans had obeyed their agreement with God of not harming any human for 300 years. Now that the agreement had been completed, the Mayans had regained their freedom and were no longer constrained. And from now on, they could act freely in accordance to their own rhythm. Other people might not have understood, but Lear had guessed their intentions. There were only two people in mankind's history who had emerged to become gods. Actually, with the strength of mankind, they would never have had the ability to surpass Atlantis or Maya. The people of Atlantis had advocated for peace all along, and were both spiritual and religious. However, the Mayans were different. The Mayans were very powerful, and they advocated for the expansion of their powers. However, when they met the second god of mankind, they could only surrender before the power of God. During their days in the Milky Way Alliance, they were well known as the country who always tried to never offend anyone. They had always given in. But now, the agreement had been completed. They could finally return to being the prideful Mayans, and they were just in time for this year's IG. Wang Zheng could also understand what was going on. Even though he had not learned before, he was very clear about the meaning of those words. Not only was it clear, but a shadow of a person appeared in his mind. It was that master, Wang Tong, which Charcoal had mentioned. The one who had helped him perfect his primordial regression technique, and the strange person who had entered the second round. Was it him? Hearing the Mayans respectfully addressing him as God, and because of his one sentence, they gave way to avoid conflict with mankind for 300 years. The Mayans who all along liked to walk with their heads slightly lowered all raised their heads. The eyes of Varus were as sharp as the glint of swords. The Mayans confirmed the call for a team leader heavenly battle. The glory of the Mayan Empire was going to blossom in the Milky Way Alliance. Even though the agreement had ended, it was evident that war would not happen within a short time. Time had changed many things. The Milky Way Alliance was indeed very powerful now. There was no need to doubt this. Moreover, the Mayans had also gradually integrated into the Milky Way Alliance. However, the arrogance of the Mayans was going to burst forth. They were going to become the leaders of the Milky Way Alliance and not just act as a subordinate. The noble Mayans, the rulers of the second era, had revived. It was obvious that the other people had not come to realize all of this. Wang Zheng looked at Aina, and slightly shook his head. He was trying to say that this was very dangerous. Wang Zheng sensed a dangerous atmosphere. Anything that had any form of relation to the Rubik's Cube was beyond common sense. He was afraid that the Mayans were going to make some trouble. After all, Aztlan was the motherland of Aina, so Wang Zheng would not wish for anything to happen. Sword Saint Aurora, the pride of the young generation of Aztlan. He was born an aristocrat. He had an amiable character, was magnanimous, and could be said to be the role model of the Milky Way Alliance. But this time around, he was really enraged. Anyone who offended Aslan's dignity in front of him was committing a capital offense. But rules were rules. With a wave of Aurora's hand, the rest of the 11 Aslanian warriors immediately stood up. The Aslanians were enraged. As the popular champion's choice, the Aslanians, who represented the top-notch strength of mankind, had never ever felt so insulted. They were going to use their blood and lives to teach their enemies a lesson. The 12 warriors of the Aztlan Empire were enough to form a set of the combined assault formation which Aztlan was famous for. If it was not the Mayans who were insane, then it was the world. Tongues were wagging around the whole venue. The generals of every country were all exceptionally excited, while the general of Maya had already calmed down. Varus appeared. A type of crystal mech that was never seen before was transported out. The screen showed the name as Maya's Mantis. This type of mech was clearly much more complex than the usual crystal mecha. It seemed like its structure was made up of layers upon layers, and under the sunlight, it was spreading out captivating rays of light. Without a doubt, this was a type of super mech, and perhaps this was the trump card of the Mayans. Could it be that the Mayans had stayed low profile for so many years but they had invented a super mech as a plan for them to rise again? What's the use of just one mech? Everyone really had no idea what the Mayans were arrogant about. Everyone was discussing spiritedly, but no one understood the significance of today to the Mayans. Today, they must offer their victory as a sacrifice to their ancestors, and for the Aslanians, who were the representatives of mankind, this was no doubt a very good offering. After seeing this mech, Aurora had already awoken from his anger. The Mayans were not weak people, and there was possibly some type of conspiracy going on. As the team leader, he ought to calm himself down. All of you, choose the mech which you are best at. Later on, let me fight alone. Oz, make your own judgment according to the situation later. Leader, I think I would be more suitable to be the vanguard. You are better at observing the big picture, so you should keep a lookout. I also feel that these crystal people are up to something. Oz said. Even though the sword magician was frivolous, underestimating the enemy was really rarely seen on the Aslanians. They had already slowly calmed down from their anger earlier. After all, the Mayans were a powerful civilization. All these years they had been keeping a low profile, and the performances of the crystal mecha also did not show that they were invulnerable. But who knew? After all, their heritage should not be underestimated. This was completely different from the aboriginals from Ghana. Everyone started concentrating with full attention. They acutely sensed that the atmosphere was not right. Was Aslan going to meet with unexpected failure? Aurora chose the Sword Saint 9th Gen, Aslan's super mech, while Oz chose the Sword Magician K. They were all top-notch mecha to operate. The rest of the warriors also made their choices one after another, and they chose those that matched with their team formation. Aslan's tactics were very comprehensive, their team cooperation was also very strong, and their discipline was even stronger. After Aurora's command, everyone also started to be on alert. In the previous round of battle, the energy absorption and the energy-splitting net of the Mayans was indeed very terrifying. However, the strength of Leah Sphinx was still not comparable to Aslan. All the mecha which the Aslanian warriors chose were good at charging forth, but the only thing which they would need to guard against was similar to an attack which had no distinct range. That was the reason why Aurora especially urged again and again that they need to be ready at any moment to activate their energy shields. The Mayans were good at energy attacks, and since they actually dared to call for a heavenly battle, they would certainly have a trick that would end both parties in mutual destruction. This was also the reason why Olivius dared to call for a heavenly battle. As for Wang Zheng, that was a completely different. It was really a one from the start till the end as he picked each individual off. He had practically been using a cheat mech. However, when one looked at ranged attacks, it was a double-edged sword. If one miscalculated, the whole game would be lost if the opponent closed the distance or if the pilot missed. One would need to possess calm judgment to make the right decisions for victory. Yet it looked as though the Mayans had staked everything on one throw. Aurora and Oz went to different sides on the arena. This could ensure their victory by preventing them from getting hit by a single, surprise area of effect attack. Both parties went into their mecha, then the referee sounded the gunshot for this exotic game. Facing the majestic Aslan Empire team, this shining mech, with a name of Maya's Mantis, which people were unable to make heads or tails of, could it actually be strong enough? Oz drove his Sword Magician K and launched a sudden attack. Aslan's strategy was an appropriate one. First, regardless of what the Mayans were conspiring, considering the individual strength of Oz, he would be no weaker than any opponent here. Even though the opponent had called for a heavenly battle, Aslan could still choose to fight a 1v1. A victory like this could likewise bring about glory. Looking at the opponent, Oz was soaring with fighting desire. The princess was present as well, so Oz decided to end this in the shortest time possible. Bursting forward suddenly, the distance of the mecha was decreased to less than 30 meters. Varus was still not moving. Could it be that he was still thinking of using the energy-splitting net? Sword Magician of Oz suddenly had rays of light radiating all around himself, Ability X. Boom boom boom, a rays of sword chi that split open the earth and ground radiated outwards. This was Oz's ability, C-rank energy control. Once the beam saber was in his hands, it could practically attack in unfathomable directions. This was like how Ao Ziwei and Astina controlled fire freely. However, in terms of control and strength, Oz was much stronger. High-pressure energy slash, kill. Varus spread his arms out. The Mayan mecha were the only ones that did not need energy shields. Even the runic mecha of Atlantis required energy shields. A ring-shaped barrier appeared in front of the Maya's Mantis, and the energy of Oz's sword chi was completely absorbed by the barrier. However, with the first round of attacks as a distraction, Oz had already charged to the front. Whoosh! The freakish energy net of the Mayans appeared. If you dashed in, your body and bones would be sliced into pieces. However, his opponent was Oz, one of the Aslan's twin stars, Aslan's pride. The energy net did not appear out of nowhere. There would first be energy fluctuations, then it would appear. And the time taken for it to appear in a flash was at least more than a second. And while the energy was fluctuating, the sword magician had already made its move. It was the move, Papalocus's triangular steps. There was not too much loss in mobility from the instantaneous forceful maneuver which shifted the mech sideways. After the energy net appeared in empty air, Oz had already appeared right in front of the crystal mech. The rays of lights from its beam saber were increasing in intensity, and the length and width of it had doubled. Heaven and earth split apart. This sword attack was the method to shred the Mayans like tofu. The Mayans were too pretentious. This time around they were pretending to be stupid C*NTS. Aslan had only sent out one of their warriors, yet the Mayan team leader was already disorientated by the attack. Yet he still wanted to fight a whole team on his own. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Compared to the Mayans, everyone still preferred the Aslanians a little more. The key thing was that the Mayans were not Aslanians. They did not have the strength to brag, but they still wanted to pretend that they did. Boom! At this moment, Maya's mantis made a move. The sword of Oz had not even reached the top of his head, but Oz's chest had already suffered a violent kick. Immediately after, the Maya's mantis dashed forward like a flash of lightning. It dashed forward, delivering a punch and immediately parrying the sword magician's strike. Varus quickly followed up with a roundhouse kick. He was incomparably violent. A boom. The sword magician was directly kicked over 10 meters away, but Oz forcefully maneuvered the mech so that it did not have to fall flat on its face. What just happened? Was this a Mayan? Weren't they bad at close combat? What was happening? It was a fast and fierce close-distance attack. The rhythm of the attack of the Mayans was clearly one beat faster than that of Aslan. Varus was very calm and collected. He had the utmost respect for the previous generations and his Mayan seniors. They obviously had such strong abilities, but they had to pretend to be weak and small. How much humiliation had they endured since then? But now, the Mayans would no longer need to endure such things ever again. As it was understood, the mecha of the Mayans belonged to a different type of system from mankind. They were even more willing to call it a suit of armor. As a whole, due to the connection to their mech being closer than that of mankind, they were able to deliver attacks with even greater frequency and speed. How could such mecha not be good at close-ranged attacks? Even if they were not good at it in the past, the Mayans were also not pigs. It would not be possible for them to have ignored such shortcomings for such a long time. With unthinkable and incomparable energy weapons at range, coupled with monstrous close combat ability, this was the Mayans demonstrating their might. If it was someone else receiving those blows previously, they would probably have collapsed straight away. Oz still managed to withstand it, but the extremely tyrannical strength of the Mayans was something that could not be ignored. The evolutionary path of the Mayans was different. The reason for their sparkles was not for the purpose of saving energy. After beating back Oz, the Maya's mantis suddenly advanced towards the Aslan team to attack them. He was taking the initiative to attack? His speed of movement was quick, yet the most crucial point was that the Maya's mantis had suddenly disappeared. Warping abilities. One of the Aslanians' mecha was pierced through by a beam saber. The movements were quiet and fast. Aurora was the first to react, but just as he was about to attack, the Mayan disappeared about. Consecutive warping abilities. The Maya's mantis appeared 10 meters away. There were rays and rays of lasers lancing out. All the Aslanians dispersed. At this moment, it was no longer a 1v1. After losing one mech, Aurora rapidly led his team members to surround Varus. Varus stopped moving again. The movement of the Mayan mech was very strange, but it was not enough for a fight of 1 against 12. That was one thing which Aurora had guessed correctly. However, he had just made another mistake. Varus had deliberately attracted their attention to gather them. From this distance, everyone heard a strange sound. A song could be heard coming from the mantis. Strong rays of light burst out of the crystal mech. Rays and rays of light pillars appeared unexpectedly from the sky, and every light pillar locked in on one Aslanian mech. The reactions of the Aslanians were very fast. They immediately activated their energy shields. However, their energy shields were unable to stop the light pillars from descending upon them. The energy shields were ineffective. The Mayans were the strongest at manipulating energy. This was something that the energy shields would not be able to defend against. The song heralds the coming of death. It was a force that could penetrate energy shields. There was no way to escape. Buzz, after 3 seconds, the light pillars exploded and the mecha of Aslan that were moving froze all at once. All their pilots had lost consciousness. This was not an attack on the mecha, it was a spiritual attack on the pilots. Only Aurora and Oz were able to hold up against it. Moments ago, they had felt like their brains were going to explode, however, their mental strength managed to withstand it. In an instant, the Aslan team was only left with the two of them. Was Aslan's pride going to be ruined in just one day? They had completely fell into their opponent's trap. In terms of battle tactics, everyone understood the importance of knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. However, the problem was whether mankind had even understood the Mayans. What mankind had understood about the Mayans was just what they had chosen to show them. It was superficial, so of course the Aslanians could not be blamed entirely. The Mayans had lived cowardly for 300 years. They themselves were probably almost going crazy with all the things that they had to hold back. Such strength was also used for the first time in the IG. This was also why the Mayans dared to call for a heavenly battle, as this ability was even more harder to dodge than the skyrocket cannon of Olivius. This was a genuine crowd control ability. Aurora and Oz took a quick look at each other. Even though they did not know what Varus' condition was after using such an ability, they knew it was necessary for them to continue to attack. Oz adeptly charged forward. However, he did not dare to use his energy control ability X, as the Mayans' understanding of energy had surpassed his and they could totally subdue him. To be exact, the evolutionary direction of the Mayans was with regards to energy transformation. This was also why their bodies were glistening. To play with energy manipulation in front of the Mayans would be like displaying one's slight skill before the experts. Close distance attack, Varus was not afraid of it at all. He had suppressed his abilities for a very, very long time. Even if he had lost his energy control, with just his physical body strength and skills, Oz would not lose out. Perhaps he could even catch up with Varus' speed. Aurora threw away his beam saber. They had all brought the wrong weapons. The beam saber was ineffective against the Maya's mantis. If it was a titanium blade in his hand, things would be much easier. For now, Aurora could only endure. He was waiting for an opportunity, as dashing in blindly would not guarantee a good result. He had to wait for a flaw to expose itself. Any man or any mech would have their own flaws. They must not be frightened by the energy attainments of their opponent. There must surely be a weak point. Aurora's eyes released shining rays of lights. The world was disappearing, and the Maya's mantis and the sword magician, who were currently in a battle, appeared before Aurora's eyes in another light. Where was the weak point of the crystal mech? It would be very tough for an energy attack to be effective. The energy absorption power of the Mayans was definitely not unlimited. However, with the current attacks by their mecha, it was definitely would not be able to reach its saturation point immediately. Only physical attacks would work. Finally, Aurora realized that while Varus was attacking, the left arm of the crystal mech was constantly shielding the left side of its chest. Since it was a humanoid mech, it showed that its vital part was where the heart was supposed to be. As he thought about it, it made sense. Aurora took the opportunity and attacked. Boom! Just like a bolt of lightning, the ground exploded as Aurora dashed to Varus' front frantically. This attack was startling, and at the next moment, Aurora's hand had already pierced directly through the breast of the crystal mech. Oz and Aurora had worked together for many years, and they were each other's biggest competitors and also best friends. And many times, there was no need for them to communicate anything to each other. In the instant where Aurora succeeded, Sword Magician had quickly grabbed the head region of the mantis, and started twisting it abruptly, attempting to snap the entire area off. Crack crack crack, the crystals on the mech started cracking. This was finally over. The sudden madness of the Mayans shocked everyone. These techniques and styles were all never exhibited by the Mayans in the past. It could be said that for this match, the Aslanians were totally stifled by their techniques. However, the teamwork between Aurora and Oz was impeccable, their minds were very calm, and they were not at all frightened by the marvelous strength of the Mayans. If one's heart was scared, then there would really be no chance at all. But now they managed to overturn the situation even though they were faced with an unfavorable scenario. Suddenly, Oz shouted and immediately threw himself over Aurora. The crystal mech had rays of lights radiating all around. Thesa, was it going to explode? Rumbling, a ball of light which was even more frightening than the one Olivius had created exploded, and the whole sky and ground shook. Everyone was stunned, even the expressions of the generals who were present also slightly changed. What was happening to this year's IG? Had everyone gone mad? Even though it was not banned, this kind of large-scale killing had violated the rules. And the most crucial thing was, it was a self-detonation. This was absolutely prohibited. A suicide bombing attack, this was already no longer a competition. After all, the IG was not an all-out war with enemies, there was still a need for a baseline. The Mayans had stirred up the anger of everybody. Even if one's understanding of energy was that good, one also should not accumulate all of it, make it into a bomb, and end everyone in mutual destruction. The reactions of Aurora and Oz were both first class. Oz had the same type of energy control ability, and in an instant, formed a gigantic energy barrier. However, it was still unable to block the explosion and was immediately destroyed. The energy shields of both the mecha were also destroyed from the deadly explosion. Both the mecha were blasted out 10 over meters and had fallen onto the ground. This was definitely an overbearing technique. When had the Mayans made such a mech? What were they thinking? Teleportation and self-destruction. However, after the lights had totally dispersed, all the bits and pieces of crystals rapidly came together and reformed. After a few minutes, a brand new Maya's Mantis reappeared. The whole hall was extremely silent. This would not be considered a suicide attack. This was merely one of the abilities of the Mayan mech, memory-based reconstruction and revival. What about the current functionality of the mech? What was the condition of the pilot? Nobody knew, because this had never happened before. All along everyone had focused their attention of the people of Atlantis. People seemed to have forgotten how the Mayans had joined the Milky Way Alliance. Aurora and Oz were unable to stand up. The both of them did not lose consciousness, however, their mecha were damaged from the explosion, and they had lost their ability to battle. Wrong judgments were made from the beginning to the end, but Aurora and Oz were not to be blamed. Who would have thought that the Mayans had been playing dumb to take advantage of them? The biggest unexpected win up till date had just occurred in the IG. The previous champion, the Aslan Empire, had unexpectedly fallen out on their way to the semi-finals, and it was the Mayans who had terminated their rise. With his shining mech, Varus appeared on the ground. He could no longer control his tears. The Mayans' lives had been humiliating, but now they could finally obtain their long-deserved, proper dignity and pride in the Milky Way Alliance. All the Mayans had changed from their usual, gloomy selves. Right now they were howling presumptuously. Everyone was stunned, not just about the victory, but they had also not seen the Mayans being so liberated. It was as if they had finally broken the chains and had gained their freedom. In reality, starting from today, they had truly gained their freedom. In the Mayan Empire far away, the whole nation was celebrating, and countless people had flocked onto the streets. Today was the revival day for the Mayans. The great Mayan civilization was finally going back to their rightful place. There was probably still a very long way to go for Maya to return to the position as the most powerful country in the Milky Way Alliance. However, in the IG, Maya had created the most unexpected win by eliminating the Aslan Empire and advancing into the semifinals. Fortunately, the Aslan team members did not die in the battle. 8 of them had suffered minor injuries, and 3 of them serious injuries. This was the most consoling part out of all the misfortune. However, this shock was indeed a huge blow to the Aslanians, who were determined to be the champion. However, Aslan was not the first, and also not the last. This feeling was a little like having the minor player upstaging the main player in the IG that was organized by mankind. And also, because in the second half, there was still the strongest Atlantis team. 2 places out of the top 4 had been filled, Arbiter and Maya, and both had reached that position by winning the team leader heavenly battle. Arbiter had displayed the valiant strength of one of their individuals, while the Mayan team leader fully demonstrated the technological strength of the Mayans. The team members might have left the scene, but to the scientific and technical staff of every country, it was definitely going to be a sleepless night. The level of technology displayed by the Mayans was on the level of Atlantis, which was something that mankind did not understand. For the Maya's Mantis, this mech displayed many usages of energy, especially the last one where the fragments reorganized themselves. It practically could be called a miracle. Could it be that this mech could revive itself an unlimited number of times? It was evident that the people of Arbiter were more concerned about this, because in the semi-finals, they would be meeting the Mayans. And mecha that would not get worn out would be a big headache to handle. However, all mecha surely had a weakness. To a very large extent, the reason the Mayans could have such a performance was because they had won with a surprising move. Everyone was totally clueless about the capabilities of their mecha. The Mayans had brought about a lot of surprises for the Milky Way Alliance. In fact, many of these surprises were unlikely to be superseded in the near future. However, the IG competition still had to go on. The second day of battle was about to start. The first round would be the Solar System Federation team against the Hail Cloud Alliance team. It would be the pivotal meeting between the Miracle team led by Wang Zheng and the IC team led by Snow Lee. Before the battle, everyone thought highly of the Solar System Federation team. From the look of things, this dark horse seemed to have the momentum to be an unexpected winner. However, it was rumored that Wang Zheng was injured and his injuries had not yet fully recovered. As a result, his fighting strength might be adversely affected if he chose to fight now. And looking at their abilities, the abilities of the Hail Cloud Alliance team were able to restrain the abilities of the Solar System Federation team. As for now, it was known that Snow Lee and Xu Dongsheng both had C-rank abilities. Furthermore, such abilities were able to restrict the performance and capabilities of mecha such as the Golden Wheel and the Wind God. No matter how nimble or fast their attacks were, once they were frozen, what else could they do? The Hail Cloud Alliance was very confident about advancing into the semi-finals. In the quarter-finals battle, no matter which team was matched up against the Solar System Federation team, it would have been considered as being lucky. The battles between the first four were too intense and too scary. As for the second group of teams, only Atlantis was unfathomable. The Hail Cloud Alliance's goal was just to enter the semi-finals. They did not believe that they stood a chance in beating Atlantis to arrive in the finals. The third round of the quarter-finals should have been the match least worth watching, but all the representatives of each country still came, including the group from Aslan, who were just defeated. It was evident from their expressions that regardless of Aurora or the other members, they had not yet walked out from the shadows of their defeat. However, as the Aslanians were gentlemanly, they could not avoid the scene and thus still had to appear. Aina also appeared. It was heard that yesterday, the royal princess had still given encouragement to the team members. Failing once did not mean failing for a lifetime. Moreover, only people who had gone through defeats would be able to truly become people who could bear heavy responsibilities. Jade must be chiseled before it could be considered a gem. Since ancient times, who had succeeded with just a smooth sailing life? Aslan was able to endure this minor blow. No one would be ever victorious, and the crystal mech of the Mayans warranted a proper study. The body of the Mayans had a resonance of around 50% with the energy emitted by the mech. Meanwhile, mankind was only able to produce an effect of about 5%. This ability enabled the Mayans to be able to manipulate energy in countless different ways. This was something that had never showed, and it seemed as though they had finally used their trump card. The internal affairs of Maya had also caught the attention of the Milky Way Alliance. The Alliance deliberated all decisions and chose to stay quiet in the midst of further observation. After that liberating fight, the Mayans seemed extra quiet. After keeping their calm for so many years, they had also changed. Besides, they had only entered the semi-finals. They were still 2 steps away from winning the champion. Although they had managed to defeat Aslan with their surprising moves, their future opponents would definitely have a greater understanding of them. Even if their core techniques could not be deciphered, the basic functionality and data of the mecha could not be kept as a secret. At least the Arbiter warriors which Olivius represented did not care much about the Mayans. Revival. Olivius' way of thinking was very simple. He would hit you until you did not feel like living anymore. But of course, before the semifinals, the technical staff of Arbiter would obtain the analysis data of the new Mayan mecha. Snow Lee and Wang Zheng both reached the front of the stage. Snow Lee was sizing up Wang Zheng. Team leader Wang Zheng. The warriors of the Hail Cloud Alliance really admire your combat skills. Regardless of the outcome of battle, we welcome you as a guest at the Hail Cloud Alliance. Snow Lee's remarks stunned everyone. Snow Lee was known as the top beauty of this IG. This princess who was blessed and born in the year of the dancing ice dragon had been cold all along, but she was so amiable to this guy. This felt a bit unacceptable. This people of Hail Cloud team were also smiling. Even though the outcome of the battle was admittedly important, to both sides, to be able to reach the current position already ensured that they had no regrets. Additionally, they were able to establish their own style from the battles. Essentially, the IG was supposed to test the development progress of the mecha of the various countries, and to understand the skill level of the younger generation. However, up till now, the fights had already turned sour. Everything was about winning, and winning was the focus here. There were not many friendships made, but rather enemies. Of course, this was also normal. However, Wang Zheng had been displaying his exquisite skills and performance all the way from the beginning, especially with his understanding of the mecha. This was still something which the Hail Cloud team really admired. This was different as compared to Olivia's violence, the advanced technology of the Mayans, and the magical abilities of Atlantis. He had truly showed the excellence of mankind. It would not be an exaggeration that he was so amazing that he could change something rotten to something everyone would fight for. I have long heard that the Ice City is one of the top 10 places of interest in the Milky Way Alliance. If there's a chance, I will surely go experience it for myself. Even though all of you are beautiful women and handsome men, our Solar System Federation is definitely not going to start off leniently. Whoever wins can treat the loser to a meal, Wang Zheng said grudgingly. Looking at Wang Zheng's expression, Snow Lee could not help but to smile sweetly. I feel the same. F***ck, our boss is so amazing. Even in such a situation, he would still dare to pick up girls. Unbelievable, he is my idol, Yan Xiaoshu could not help but say in adoration. Yi Zisu, who was standing at the side, glared at him. However, Tyrant Su was not receptive to her reaction. Wang Zheng was ballsy. His actual girlfriend was right before him, yet he still dared to flirt with someone else, and what was more was that it was on the territory of that certain princess. That was just too brave of him. People liked to gossip. At best, Snow Lee had a little admiration and nothing more, but outsiders always liked to think differently. But at least it changed the current scope of the IG up till now. That cruel and harsh atmosphere became more mellow. After drawing lots, the Hail Cloud Alliance would be the first to choose their player for the battle. Without a doubt, the Hail Cloud Alliance's vanguard, Xu Dongsheng, appeared. This person possessed a C-rank ice ability X and was definitely not easy to be dealt with. And even though Snow Lee had said it in a relaxed manner, everyone knew that once the battle started, it would be that of life and death. Meng Ao, Lai Wuqing, and Dramok all felt a little surreal sitting here. The performance of this bunch of young fellows was too breathtaking. Before the battle, Meng Ao had communicated with Wang Zheng. Meng Ao represented the military and said that they were already very satisfied with their current achievement, and that it would not be good to aim too high. The most important thing right now was to ensure the health of everyone. There would still be another decade of time for them to grow, and the strength of the Solar System Federation would be completely different. The strength, ideology, and aggressiveness which all these youngsters had exhibited would definitely allow them to play a leading role in the army in the future. The most crucial thing was that they possessed the confidence that the preceding generations of people did not have, and they were fearless of all the other countries. Wang Zheng swept through all the team members of the Solar System team. Not sure at what point in time, there was no longer anyone who was indifferent. Even though Wang Zheng was still Wang Zheng, with regards to his identity as the team leader, everybody had already accepted it in their hearts. At the beginning, Wang Zheng had made a wise choice of letting all his team members go up to battle. This was because as they advanced further, many of his team members would have no chance at all. Although they had come for this IG, they could only be part of the cheerleading squad. This would definitely be more painful than suffering a defeat, and it would not bring about any improvement. Even though it was quite a tough decision to field the weaker members at the start, it was no doubt a good thing for the whole team. To be the team leader of the Solar System Federation was not an easy thing, especially with Lear and Achilles around. However, the two of them would not object to Wang Zheng as the team leader now. For the first battle, the one chosen would definitely be either Achilles or Lear. Lai Xin's gaze was brimming with fervent desire because for the Lai family, their flame arts would require such a battle to perfect it. However, looking at the odds of success, it was definitely Lear and Achilles who were more capable. Even Lai Xin would find it embarrassing to ask to be sent up for battle. For the first round, Lai Xin will go first. Everyone was stunned. In the delegation, even Lai Wuqing could not help but to frown. Even though Lai Xin was his own, wouldn't it be a foolish move to send Lai Xin up now? What was Wang Zheng up to? While student Wang was indeed unperturbed, if he bothered with everyone's opinions up till now, he might as well find a piece of tofu and kill himself with it. Even though it caused quite a few doubts, it was not like before, where everyone doubted him. The performance of the Golden Wheel and the Wind God had shut everyone's mouths. Moreover, the Solar System Federation had already advanced into the quarter-finals. If it was anyone else, who could have achieved such a feat? When she heard her own name, Lai Xin totally brightened up, and when she passed by Wang Zheng, she could not help but give a charming smile. "You seem to be getting more and more handsome. Why don't I take you out today?" Looking at Lai Xin's fit and sexy figure, student Wang rubbed his nose. Even if he was silly, at this time he was also keeping still without looking sideways. Aina, who was in the delegation, looked like she was smiling yet not smiling, and student Wang felt chills down his spine. It was said that the royal princess highness was magnanimous, but if she started getting jealous, Lai Xin was already mentally prepared. She chose the super mech of the Mars Mecha of the Solar System Federation, a flame executioner. Humanoid warrior type mech. This mech of Lai Xin's was somewhat different from the usual fire type mech. This was because it was a limited edition mech, and the right shoulder of the mech had a logo of a flame on it. It was not just for show, though. The material used to construct the mech was different from that of the usual fire-type mech. It would even improve the abilities of the Lai Flame technique. The reason why Wang Zheng had sent Lai Xin up for this round was because he was absolutely confident that she would win this battle. Worse come to worse, he would just call for a team leader heavenly battle. Since he had already called for one, he could definitely call for a second one. His injuries were a small matter, so long as his physical injuries were cured. As for those other spiritual energies or whatever that was within him, his primordial regression technique had already restored him to peak condition. But of course, these doctors that treated him would not understand, especially the doctors of Aslan. On the one hand, it was to train the team, but since everyone had already come for the IG, they would want to display their strengths as far as possible. On the other hand, Wang Zheng also had his own thoughts, which was that he really wanted to understand the techniques of his teammates. There was nothing much to hide when it came to the flame arts of the Lai family. Even though Lear and Achilles also had their own techniques, their techniques were rarely put to use during battles. Theirs was something more indirect, unlike the flame arts. As for the training of the primordial regression technique, Bonehead and Charcoal did not tell him how he could improve. Thus, he had to completely rely on his own understanding. They were also not afraid that Wang Zheng would be obsessed over their words and something would go wrong. However, it was always good to seek reference from others. Xu Dongsheng was very cautious. At this point, no one would belittle the Solar System Federation team, especially their super boss, Wang Zheng. It was said that he was injured, so why did he have such confidence? Snow Li was also quite baffled. If Wang Zheng was at his peak condition, she would also not be completely sure of the outcome. Even though they would be able to restrain their abilities, who knew whether the opponent still had any hidden trump cards? But so long as Xu Dongsheng won the first round, she would be confident that they would win the second round. Then, in the circumstance where they had already attained 2 points, she would be entitled to call for a team battle. And under a 5v5 situation, the problem of the large disparity in skill level within the Solar System Federation team would be exposed. Xu Dongsheng changed his mech again. It was not the frost gaze which he was proficient at, but the masterpiece which he had been training hard in to protect Snow Li. Heavy mech, Snow Country Defender. Humanoid tank-type mech. It possessed a gigantic shield with a frost greatsword. It was the absolute pinnacle when it came to attacking and defending. Furthermore, it was currently highly valued amongst the Special Forces teams of the Hail Cloud Alliance. Warrior type against a tank type. Everyone was excited to see who would dictate the tempo of things. Lai Xin was very clear about what would happen in this kind of battle. Without saying anything else, once the battle started, the Flame Executioner immediately made use of its speed to gain the upper hand. Xu Dongsheng was indeed someone who was steady and calm. To be exact, the one he most feared was Wang Zheng. He defied common sense, but in the end he still always managed to attain victory. Someone who utilized conventional tactics, like Lai Xin, was more to his liking. Ice and fire mutually restrained each other. Perhaps this woman called Lai Xin had some deadly skill. Anyway, his choice was a tank-type mech. It was best at defense and counter-attacking. The Flame Executioner which Lai Xin was piloting started a frantic attack. In Mars, the reason why this was called a Flame Executioner was because regardless of which opponent, when faced with this mech they would all be suffering from a pain that was similar to undergoing an execution by fire. Just that on the battlefield of the IG, to be honest, it was not worth mentioning at all. The flame arts of Lai Xin was operating at full strength. She was trying her best to deal ferocious blows. Even though she was a girl, the flaming blade of Lai Xin was more skillful and aggressive than Lai Guang's. The Flame Executioner indeed transformed into a crazy fire devil. It was violently bashing the Snow Country Defender. However, Xu Dongsheng's defense had no loopholes. The height of the gigantic shield was about 2/3 of the mech, forming a gigantic, steel barrier. It definitely hindered the strikes of weapons. In Xu Dongsheng's hands, the shield was used very skillfully and proficiently. It did not feel cumbersome at all. This was a clever tactic. The attacks and defense of Xu Dongsheng were not useless. His defense managed to obstruct the attacks, and he has also done so efficiently. In other words, this meant that he would not take excess actions. Lai Xin was currently holding the upper hand. However, her fighting spirit and stamina would eventually deplete, but the opponent had yet to even show his own cards. This was absolutely playing with fire. What was Wang Zheng thinking? Lai Xin lacks the ability to deal with a battle on this level. Lai Wuqing was a little anxious, even though it was his own family member competing. Martians were still pretty straightforward and preferred a confrontational style of battle. The strength of Lai Xin was slightly weaker than Lear and Achilles, but this could not be helped, as the flame arts was originally more suitable for a man to exhibit. It was not easy for Lai Xin to practice it unyieldingly to this stage. However, once she ran into a tyrannical opponent like Dongsheng, she would run into complications. Meng Ao and Dramok looked at each other. Old Lai, don't be anxious, we have known Wang Zheng for a period of time already. He might seem like a rash youth, but don't you realize that every step he made was intentional? He was never perturbed by the outside world. Dramok suddenly said. From the first training of IG, this fellow has walked his own path. While other people were arguing, he was never anxious. While other people were anxious, he was instead thinking of other things. But no matter what happened in the end, we still let him become the team leader. Even at the beginning he was also being doubted by others. Even I was not too satisfied with his way of thinking. It was too childish of me. In fact, since we have arrived at this stage, even I am also not too sure who is the childish one. Meng Ao was full of praise for Wang Zheng. Don't you all think that this young fellow's vision was much more long-term? Our gain from this IG was definitely not just our ranking. After all, the three generals were just bystanders, so it was easier for them to calm down. Looking back carefully at the time when they first met Wang Zheng and compared to now, a tremendous change had unknowingly occurred that even they themselves had not felt it. It seemed like it had been a very long time since they mentioned the achievements and moves of Lear and Achilles. Now they only ever talked about Wang Zheng, that he should not do this, and should have done that. But regardless of right or wrong, it was proper for Wang Zheng to be in this position. *CK this. Lai Xin should not fight like this, she will not have enough stamina to last. That ice turtle is too wretched, is he even a guy? Zhang Shan could not help but to complain. This was too unthinkable, that damn idiot's defense was without any loopholes. Unless an ability like his was used, He was afraid that even those extremely fast ability X's might not be able to bypass it. The gigantic shield coupled with accurate judgment made the Snow Country defender look like an icy fortress and this fellow still possessed a C-rank ability X. This was practically a nightmare. Lai Guang was also frowning. The burning impact of the flame arts on a person with ice attribute ability X will be limited, so if she is only thinking of accumulating a burning effect, it will be quite risky. Lai Guang was very clear about the formidable power of the flame arts, and Lai Xin was significantly stronger than him. But after all, a mech was not a human body, so it would not be so easy for the flame arts to permeate through. And sometimes Lai Guang also felt quite a headache about this issue. This was the sorrow of the people of the Lai family. When they started to practice the flame arts at the start, it had resulted in their ability X being affixed with a fire attribute. However, it was also not that powerful, hence sometimes it really felt like a disadvantage. To be honest, he was pretty jealous of Zhang Shan's ability to warp. However, the Lai family people had no choice. If they did not practice the flame arts of the Lai family, it would be considered as betraying their ancestors. No matter how weak the flame arts was, they also could not go against their family tradition. To be honest, Lai Xin really should not have practiced this, as with her innate skill, she might have been even stronger if she had walked the normal path. Wang Zheng was staring at the screen intently. However, seeing that the attacks did not seem to have any effect, he slowly closed his eyes, let the primordial regression technique operate, and his mental power was slowly infiltrating through. During this period of time at the IG, Wang Zheng had also improved a lot. The range in which his mental power could proliferate was also much larger than before, and very soon he could sense the two who were on the battlefield. His field of vision could show the mental power of both parties. Xu Dongxing's power was like a pure life form which contained ice attribute energy. As for Lai Xin, the fire energy was operating in a very systematic way. But the weird thing was that the fire energy that was contained inside Lai Xin's body seemed to be even more powerful than what was being exerted. The flame energy on the move was being used for movement. What was exerted seemed to be only Lai Xin's fire ability X. Did not know how to use her abilities? Wang Zheng was shocked. It seemed like the Lai family treated the flame arts as a way to upgrade their ability X, but all it did was strengthen their bodies with their misuse. The battle situation was very intense, but Xu Dongxing was feeling increasingly strange. Did this person from the Solar System Federation really look down on him that much? The ability X of this person was at most D rank and could not be relied on to fight against a C rank like him. Moreover, it was just fire energy permeating through him. Just what was happening? What was the true power of the solar system? Booma! The gigantic shield suddenly made an offensive move. The immense strength jolted the flame executioner away. Lai Xin, let's stop warming up and bring out our true strength, Xu Dongxing said directly on the public channel. Lai Xin was stunned, and only clenched her teeth. She had already used up 90% of her strength, but the opponent only thought that this was just a warm-up. It was truly an invulnerable defense. Lai Xin had never felt so powerless. In the past, she could gradually gain an advantage with her fire energy. But in the face of a true expert, she had no means to retaliate. Would she just be defeated here? With Wang Zheng, Lear, and the rest slowly achieving victories step by step, it had made herself think that she was also qualified enough to fight a battle. As soon as Xu Dongxing stopped speaking, he immediately attacked. A greatsword hacked towards the ground. Boom! The ground cracked apart, and a line of ice-cold air shot out, striking the flame executioner. Lai Xin was distracted for a moment, and unexpectedly did not dodge. In an instant, the cold air entered the mech and her whole body froze up. Xu Dongxing was also shocked. What was this? She really looked down on him that much and did not even bother to dodge? Everyone was discussing spiritedly. What happened to the solar system team? Looking at what happened to the flame executioner, everyone was a little stunned. This was a team who got into the top 8, and as the first fighter, her strength should be very astonishing, yet how come the performance was like that of a rookie? Lear's gaze was still unfriendly as he looked at Wang Zheng. He did not know what Wang Zheng was doing. Winning the championship was the major premise, and he had decided to work with Wang Zheng temporarily. But every time he thought that this person was okay, he just had to cause some disturbance. They would not be so lucky to win every heavenly battle. Even if they were able to win this time around, the next battle would be against the people of Atlantis. Would you still want to call for a heavenly battle then? Sometimes, Lear also felt a little confused. How could such a person reach such a level? This country bumpkin was baffling. Lai Xin got up again with much difficulty. As she was going to launch an attack towards her opponent, she was swatted away by the shield of the snow country defender just as she got Upa. Xu Dongsheng was speechless. So, the opponent had sent such a representative up because they were going to let him win this round intentionally. What a shameless thing to do. Initially, he thought that this would be a hearty battle as neither the Solar System nor the Hail Cloud Alliance would stand a chance against Atlantis in the semifinals. Furthermore, they had a rather favorable impression of each other and so they had really hoped to be able to swap pointers or learn from one another so that both parties would be able to improve. He had really come with the notion of wanting to swap pointers and learn, but it is really an insult to a warrior for you guys to do this, Xu Dongsheng said with a deep voice. Lai Xin was clenching her teeth so hard then they were going to break. She would rather die than to lose face for Lai family. Right, she was a woman. But since young she had never, ever seen herself as a woman. She only knew that the Lai family only had her as their direct lineage, and the 1,000 years of glory could not be ruined by her hand. As a person of the Lai family, her head could be broken, her blood could be spilled, but she must absolutely live with dignity. The flame executioner slowly stood up. It was very forced. However, Xu Dongsheng on the opposite side was even angrier. He felt disdained, and it felt like he was being cheated. Could it be that he was really being taken for granted? Perhaps team leader Snow Li was wrong about Wang Zheng? Snow Li looked over at Wang Zheng. Her womanly instinct was telling her that Wang Zheng should not be such a person. Her instinct had never, ever been wrong. Did he choose to give up this round? Wang Zheng's eyes were slightly closed. It seemed like he did not want to be bothered with all the gazes surrounding him. Lai Xin, listen to me and follow my words. Just as Lai Xin was getting ready to get up to fight with all her life. Suddenly, there was a voice. This was Wang Zheng's voice. Why? Just that at this moment, there was no time to think of anything else. However, Lai Xin felt like there was suddenly a little more strength in her body, and something seemed to be guiding it. The flame arts then naturally followed this energy guide and circulated around her body. Wang Zheng was also surprised by Lai Xin's trust. This was because if there was even a little resistance by the consciousness of the main body, his weak external consciousness would immediately be rejected from the body. In an instant, the flame arts had completed one circulatory cycle. Xu Dongsheng stepped forward. He was going to end this meaningless battle. Booma and air billow exploded outwards. The flame executioner was vibrating tremendously and a strong blast wave surged out. Xu Dongsheng was stunned, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Was it finally going to start? This was interesting. For a heavily armored warrior, they were most unafraid of pressure. For them, the stronger their opponent was, the stronger they could become. They were most afraid of cowards, especially now. It was such a rare opportunity, and competing one round with a coward meant one round wasted, and one less round to become stronger. Booma the flame executioner suddenly moved forward, swift horizontal blade. Buzz! The flaming titanium blade and the gigantic ice frost shield clashed. The snow country defender of Xu Dongsheng retreated 2 steps back from the blow of that blade. As one who possessed a heavy armor mech with absolute defense, he was unexpectedly being pushed backwards by a smaller mech. Xu Dongsheng's arm even felt a little numb. This girl was really powerful. His mind had just started to wander, but the flaming blade had already arced towards him. Skyward's explosion. This was an overhead smash, boom. He raised his gigantic shield and there was a loud noise. The snow country defender was directly beaten back and was kneeling on the ground. The ground beneath him exploded. The flame executioner bounced back and landed easily onto the ground. A sword was pointing at Xu Dongsheng. You won't get another opportunity. Show your strength now. At this moment, Lai Xin felt like there was raging heat coming out of her body, like she would be able to defeat anyone. So long as that person was around, she would no longer have any fear of any opponent. The snow country defender stood up. Xu Dongsheng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and suddenly a roar echoed. The Snow Country Defender attacked. Carrying the gigantic shield, the Snow Country Defender suddenly slammed the gigantic shield onto the ground. Boom! The ground once again blew apart. A blast of cold air gushed straight at the Flame Executioner that was not far away. In an instant, the whole Flame Executioner mech was turned into an ice sculpture, and at this time, the Snow Country Defender also rushed out. This was the actual strength of a person with a C-rank ability X. Zhang Shan and the rest were also astonished. They had suddenly recalled that Wang Zheng had once done this too, just that they had forgotten about it. Xu Dongsheng, who was before them, was also a person with an ability X of such rank, and this was simply not something an average person would be able to defend against. However, just as the Snow Country Defender was charging over, flame waves were emitted by the Flame Executioner. The ice chunks immediately turned into steam. The Flame Executioner moved to the flank of the Snow Country Defender instantly and started launching attacks. Boom boom boom. The Snow Country Defender of Xu Dongsheng was completely engulfed by the energy of the flaming blade. Did this woman also possess a C-rank ability X? To be able to melt his frozen seal meant that she possessed strength of the same rank. However, the opponent did not only cause fire injuries, this power. The flaming blade was frantically slashing at him. Xu Dongsheng no longer held the arrogance from before. His Snow Country Defender was kind of in a difficult situation. As all these attacks were severely pressurizing him, his defenses were not as calm. What made things worse was that the frantic strikes were getting faster and faster, so fast that he was almost unable to catch up. Whoosh! The Flame Executioner slashed upwards with its blade ferociously before immediately giving a kick. Boom! A target hit. She had disarmed the gigantic shield of the Snow Country Defender. The kick that followed immediately after caused the Snow Country Defender to stumble backwards for 10 over steps before regaining balance. Immediately there was cries of joy from the Solar System Federation's side, while Lear and Achilles were looking at each other in dismay. They were well aware of Lai Xin's strength, and she definitely did not have a C-rank ability X. How did she suddenly improve? Inside Lai Xin's heart, it was as though a ball of raging flames was being completely set free within her. She was not rushing to attack. The flaming blade was pointing directly at the opponent. I will give your sword one chance. Bring out all your strength, and do not regret it. Xu Dongsheng howled with laughter. Okay, this is my first time meeting such an opponent. C-rank fire against C-rank ice. I want to see which of us is stronger. Whoosh! With both hands holding onto the greatsword, cold air suddenly appeared and could be physically seen floating around and surrounding the Snow Country Defender. Xu Dongsheng's ability X had totally erupted. As for Lai Xin's side, not only the titanium blade, but the whole mech was in flames. This mech had been specially created for the people of the Lai family. At this moment, for the first time, the flame arts was fully released. Lai Xin felt like she was also going to combust with all the pent-up energy. If she did not release it all, she felt that she might even explode. All along Wang Zheng had been thinking the Lai Xin's condition was a little strange. Her body contained a very strong heat, but she was unable to release it. Perhaps it was that she did not dare to, or maybe it was because there was no appropriate situation, or that she was afraid that she would really burn herself. This skill was indeed not too suitable for women, but Lai Xin had found a way to rigidly perfect it. It was practically a miracle that she had not become mad perfecting it. Facing an opponent who was a size bigger than her, Lai Xin had completely no fear. The people of the Lai family were born for such battles, and she would have no regrets even if she died. Lai Xin had completely opened up her inner heart to Wang Zheng. This state of mind gave Wang Zheng a tremendous shock, as he had never thought that a girl could be like this. In Lai Xin's world, everything that she did was for the Lai family, for her close family and relatives. She had not thought about herself at all. Wang Zheng's consciousness was currently driving the flame art to operate at a high speed, circulating faster and faster. Suddenly, the color of the flaming blade had turned slightly blue amidst the red. Lai Wuqing's jaw looked as though it was going to fall off. How was this possible? There had not been anyone who had been able to reach such a state for the last few hundred years. Had God just opened his eyes? Both mech were committed and there was no turning back. They both launched an assault and advanced courageously. Boom! Both mecha intertwined and passed each other. It was obvious that the smaller flame executioner had slightly lost its balance, and it slid for 10 over meters before it stopped. The whole mech was covered with a layer of ice. Meanwhile, it seemed as though nothing had happened to the Snow Country defender. The whole audience was extremely quiet. Who had won? Up till now, this was only a high-level clash. Even in the gaze of Olivius, who had all along looked down on the whole world, there seemed to be an extra trace of interest. Bang! The great sword in the Snow Country defender broke in half. The mech was all right, but because the flames were not defended against, fire energy had entered the pilot's body. Xu Dongxing's complexion was red, but his expression was considerably satisfied. What a blazing Hoda blade! Booma, the huge Snow Country defender, suddenly fell, while the ice frost of the flame executioner melted. Unbelievably, Lai Xin had won the round. If it was not for that trace of blue flame, she would have been the one who would have lost. At this point, Lai Xin had already used up all her strength. However, she was still carrying a smile on her face. What she was thinking of now was not her victory, but that just now she had actually let Wang Zheng's consciousness invade her own body. This was bearing even more than physical nakedness. That gangster had actually gotten to take advantage of her. First aid staff immediately rushed in and brought out the two pilots. Lai Xin was only feeling weak. After all, she had defended against the attacks of the opponent. But for Xu Dongxing, it was dreadful that he might need to take time to properly recuperate. For people with ability X, they would be most fearful of their bodies being invaded by an opposing type of strength, as this might hamper their abilities in future. Furthermore, this time around, his injuries were pretty serious. Out of everyone, Lai Wuqing was the most excited. This general had totally lost his self-control, and his eye sockets were completely red. Meng Ao and Dramok knew what this victory meant to the people of the Lai family, and they also could not help but to feel deeply moved. Nobody would have expected Lai Xin, who was believed to be the weakest symbol of the Lai family, to overturn everything and become the most outstanding one in centuries. She had actually managed to practice to the extent of releasing blue flames. The Martians in the delegation were going crazy. The traces of pure blue light in that flame were so beautiful. This was not just ordinary blue flames. This type of blue-colored fire energy was also known as fire essence. This was also the key to beating Xu Dongxing in the end. Both possessed low-grade C-rank abilities, and Xu Dongxing would still be considered much stronger than Lai Xin, who just had a breakthrough and jumped 2 grades. It was just that a condition like Lai Xin's was just too rare. For ability X, every advancement would require great effort and luck. Lai Xin, on the other hand, had actually ascended 2 grades higher. This outburst was a little too ferocious. The problem was that at the start Lai Xin was evidently much weaker than Xu Dongxing, but how could she suddenly have such an outburst? Lai Wuqing did not care too much about that. He was the happiest. This was a signal that the Lai family would rise again. Lai Xin's advancement and strength was nothing much. Even if it was in the Martian army, there would also be many mature warriors who would be able to defeat Lai Xin. But the fact was that the Lai family represented political and religious power. For Lai Xin to have a breakthrough at this age, this was equivalent to breaking the shackles surrounding them. Even when they were at their lowest, the Martians were always firm about supporting the Lai family. And now that a turning point like this had appeared, the influence of the Lai family would definitely rise. This would definitely be a change that would make a difference. There would definitely be an extremely important role for Lai Xin to play in stabilizing the internal situation of Mars. Lai Wuqing was so happy that he did not know what to say. Just this gain had made this whole IG worthwhile. Of course, Meng Ao and Dramok also understood this point. But it was just that the Solar System Federation team really kept encountering such situations. Looking from their actual strength, it was simply impossible for them to win this round. But as it happened, Wang Zheng had sent Lai Xin up and she had even won this round, and such a strange scene actually occurred. Had Wang Zheng calculated such an outcome? It was not just the two of them who had doubts, it was also the same for the rest of the people in the team. Everyone had spent such a long time together. Other than the fact that they were still unclear about the strength of Lear and Achilles, they more or less already had a grasp of Lai Xin's strength. She was not someone who would be able to defeat Xu Dongxing. Wang Zheng, please don't tell me that you foresaw this. Zhang Shan said as he wrapped his arm around Wang Zheng's shoulder. However, his eyes were still staring at Lear. Even though they were teammates, Zhang Shan still did not trust Lear. In any case, since Lear also did not care much about Wang Zheng, if Wang Zheng did something right, it was something that he ought to, and Lear would be able to do better. And if Wang Zheng did something wrong, it would be like him being guilty of terrible crimes. He should have let Lear done it. Wang Zheng laughed. How would I know? Maybe luck played some part. He really did not expect Lai Xin to win, despite his confident demeanor. He had actually planned to let this round go, but mainly it was because he felt that Lai Xin's flame arts had reached a new level. Hence, on one hand it was for him to observe her, and on the other hand he also hoped to give Lai Xin a chance. He did not expect for this to be such a win-win situation, that the flame arts of Lai Xin could have made use of this opportunity to break through a realm, and this also reflected on her ability X. Lai Xin knew best. How many years had it been since someone from the Lai family was able to break through this level? It was like the flame arts had reached the peak already. But just now, she had accomplished something that was almost a miracle. The subsequent improvement of ability X was nothing much, as the Lai family was able to improve their ability X through their arts, and this was something that others were not capable of. However, all these improvements actually stemmed from Wang Zheng's help. He actually possessed telepathy as well. This ability X was very rare. And the key thing was, it seemed like he understood the flame arts more than her. This was practically a miracle. Lai Xin was filled with questions. Suddenly, she was reminded of the sage's words. The sage had once mentioned before that she would meet someone fated to change her destiny. Was he referring to this? After thinking carefully about it, Wang Zheng was an unfamiliar junior from Earth. What did he have that rendered the sage to want to specially meet him, and even give him such special treatment? Could it be that Wang Zheng came from an influential background? Lai Xin could already walk on her own when she came out. A sexy and beautiful woman when appearing to be slightly weak was even more lovely and delicate. It was rare to see this side of the high and mighty Miss Lai. Looking at the people who were flocking over, Lai Xin suddenly said one sentence that got everyone split their sides laughing. Mr. Team Leader, you have to take responsibility now. Wang Zheng was about to say his congratulations, but he was terrified. What was she saying? This ignited the gossip amongst everyone. While everyone was gossiping, Zhang Shan pulled Wang Zheng to the side. F***CK. That's not right. When did you win Lai Xin's heart? You are too capable. Tell me, have you slept with her? Wang Zheng gave him a kick. Go to H**LL. Even I am unable to make heads or tails out of this. Lai Wuqing still did not feel assured about the Lai Xin's physical condition. He was going to personally bring Lai Xin for a checkup, but Lai Xin insisted in watching the rest of the battles. Her victory was nothing much, only when the whole team won could it be considered a success. On the Hail Cloud Alliance's side, they had run into a little trouble. Snow Lee was sure that they could easily win the first round. However, it was unexpected that such an accident would occur. That was impossible. One's ability improvement was not like eating. How did she improve just like that? Looking at Wang Zheng, that guy looked extremely calm and collected. It looked like it would not be easy to mess with him. Who would be the representative for the Solar System team for the second battle? With the Hail Cloud Alliance's current situation, Snow Lee would probably have to go up for the second round. If they let the Solar System Federation team get 2 points first, then the Solar System team would have the right to choose if they wanted to start a team battle. However, the Hail Cloud Alliance would prefer to hold the rights to initiate the team battle. Wang Zheng also looked at Snow Lee. She clearly wanted to fight him. It was evident that this favored girl from the Snow Country wanted to fight at least one round with Wang Zheng. Lear looked at Wang Zheng. Let me take care of this round. No matter who the opponent is, I will be able to win. Wang Zheng laughed. His rivalry with Lear had always existed. To be honest, Wang Zheng's personality was considered not bad, as he was able to befriend many people. However, for Lear, neither of them would ever be able to become friends. This was actual ice and fire. Since the start of the IG, Lear had lots of dirty tricks, as if he really thought that Wang Zheng was stupid. But it was just that Wang Zheng had no time or effort to spend on such trivial matters. However, as the team leader, he would not allow Lear's voice to overwhelm his voice as the leader. If it was to volunteer to take the initiative for the whole team, Wang Jung would naturally be supportive. But it was just that the attitude of this fellow was always as though he owed him something, and he himself could rise up to the position. Wang Jung smiled and shook his head. I think I will handle the second round. Team leader Snow Lee has already gone up herself. Without noticing, Snow Lee had already gone up. For this battle, it should have been the Solar System Federation to send up their player first, but the team leader of the Hail Cloud Alliance went up first. It was obvious that she had the intention to force Wang Jung to have a battle between leaders. This trick could kill two birds in one stone. If it was Wang Jung who came up, then Snow Lee would just need to win to turn the tables, and if it was not Wang Jung who came up, then she would also have gained the momentum. As this was a battle that Snow Lee must win, regardless of whether she faced Lear or Achilles, she could not underestimate anyone. Lear frowned. Wang Jung, this is not a trifling matter. Even though you are the team leader, you are still injured, and the opponent also restrains you. Even though on the surface he was pretending to be righteous, in reality, regardless of his tone or what he said, all of it was a challenge to Wang Jung's authority as the team leader. It was like the team leader was a child he was taking care of, it was just an empty title. Lear, honestly, please just sit down. You seem to have forgotten that he helped us to fight and brought us all the way here, don't act pretentious. The one who spoke was Taros. It was like Taros had disappeared for the last few battles. No one was willing to pay attention to him. He was once the focus of attention, like a steamed bun whom everyone would want. However, no one was interested in him anymore. Taros was no doubt the one who hated Lear the most. This person was despicable and treacherous, hostile and heartless. He abandoned people just like that. And at this moment, he did not care about spilling salt on Lear's wound. Zhang Shan was very happy. Taros, you are finally saying something sensible, haha. Lear, just follow what the team leader says. We are the Solar System Federation team, we have to stay united and follow our commander, Lai Xin said. This was the first time where she had clearly stood on Wang Jung's side, and saying such a thing also meant that she was willing to follow Wang Jung's commands and that she recognized Wang Jung as the team leader. This was not an easy thing to do for the prideful people of the Lai family. It would not have been possible if she was not sincerely willing to. As for the people of the Lai family, to support one so publicly meant that he had become a friend of the Lai family. At least it meant that he had a friendly relationship with Mars. Lear took a look at Achilles. Achilles had no reaction and did not declare his position, so it was evident that he was in a neutral position. It was obvious the Achilles would not obey anyone. However, since they were at the IG, victory would come first before any other thing. Wang Jung, are your injuries all right? It's a small matter. It's not like we are calling for a heavenly battle. Wang Jung stood up and exercised his muscles and bones for a bit. Coming to this stage, how could he have missed a battle of this level, especially when the opponent also had an Ice Ability X? To be honest, in terms of Ability X, he was still a rookie. Except for letting it burst outwards, he knew nothing else. This battle was just nice and would allow him to learn. The second round was very likely to be able to determine the direction of the competition, as it was a team leader battle. Snow Lee laughed. You are really courageous, very different from the rest of the people from Earth. Wang Jung shook his head. That means that you know too few people from Earth. At least from the people who Wang Jung were familiar with, there were quite a few real men, such as Changsun. A person's strength might be big or small, but as long as he was pressing forward courageously in his own world, it would be sufficient. Unknowingly, Wang Jung blinked his eyes at Aina, and Aina smiled. Snow Lee, one of the most eye-catching rookies of this round's IG. The Hail Cloud Alliance had not had a female warrior from the year of the Dancing Ice Dragon appear for a very long time. I guess the chance of Wang Jung winning is higher, Aina suddenly said. Even though Aurora was a little dejected, facing the question from the Royal Princess Highness, he was still very respectful. The performance of Wang Jung was indeed breathtaking, but I think Snow Lee still has a higher chance of winning. As she is a girl, she is being highly underestimated. And actually, the Hail Cloud Alliance has not had a fated girl of the year of the Dancing Ice Dragon appear for a very long time. The information that I have states that Olivius once fought against Snowly when he was in Academy X. So what was the result? Aina was stunned. She was initially very calm, but suddenly she felt a little worried as it was clear the Olivius would not wantonly challenge people. Aurora smiled bitterly. With Olivius' character, anyone who fought against him would definitely have to lie down for a week at least. And in his eyes, he doesn't distinguish between males and females. But on the second day, Snowly was completely fine, and since then, nobody had dared to provoke Snowly in Academy X. I guess it was a draw. Even though Aslan had been extremely ambitious in this year's IG, Arbiter was their biggest rival from the start because regardless of Aurora or Oz, they were not as good as Olivius in a 1v1 fight. Perhaps when it came to innate skill and training, everyone was about the same, but after leaving Academy X, all Olivius had experienced were real battles, and they were of the most cruel types. And it was only Arbiter that was able to provide such training, and the disparity had started to widen from there. Aslana, they were not cruel enough. At least when it came to the strength of their individual warriors, a disparity still existed. Snowly let out a little smile. After reaching this level, there was no need to focus on anything. She chose the mech which she was best at, Ice Emperor 9th General. This was the totem mech of the Hail Cloud Alliance, and it was also currently the best equipped mech in their alliance. It possessed powerful maneuverability, and was also one of the best in the Milky Way Alliance. Making use of the special cold ore that only existed in the Hail Cloud world, it possessed the best ability to conduct ice powers. What would Wang Zheng's choice be? Hercules, Golden Wheel, the Wind God. Everything had its advantages and disadvantages. However, in the face of an especially powerful ice attribute ability X, even a scout might be defeated by a slow-moving mech. Once it was confined, the scout would become a live target. Comparatively speaking, using the tyrannical attacks of the Golden Wheel would probably give him a higher chance of winning. Everyone still had a deep impression of his Golden Wheel, and the Golden Wheel would also be the least affected by limited mobility. But Wang Zheng's choice once again stunned everyone. The Overlord mech of the Arbiter Republic was chosen. This was the mech that Olivius had used during his heavenly battle. That one mech had destroyed everything. Was Wang Zheng doing this as a direct challenge to see who was the real Overlord? Even if one had exceptional ability, how much better would you be able to use it compared to Olivius? The most crucial point was that the Overlord was best at close-distance combat. If one used the Overlord against the Ice Emperor 9th Gen, that was looking for trouble. The C-rank Ice ability X of Snowly was excellent at close-range battles as it was powerful enough to freeze the actions of her opponent, allowing her to quickly decimate her opponent. In an instant, the whole audience started discussing spiritedly, why was he not using the Golden Wheel? Even the people of Manalasuo were a little shocked. Even though they had lost, they had still hoped that the Golden Wheel would shine. Vincent's face was filled with pity. He still wanted to see more and increase his knowledge, as sometimes he could definitely learn more as a bystander. Was this considered as a provocation to Olivius? The expressions of the people of Arbiter were not good at all. If he dared to provoke the god of war, he must have been tired of living. In this world, nobody could operate the Overlord better than Olivius. But of course, the Overlord was only one of the mecha which Olivius was used to using. And in this aspect, Wang Zheng seemed to be the same. He was also good at many types of mecha. Snowly looked at Wang Zheng and showed a subtle smile. Snowly was very familiar and knowledgeable about the Overlord mech. She once had a draw against Olivius, and at the time Olivius had also used the Overlord mech. The functionalities of the Overlord were not bad, but if given a score, it would only be at most 8 points. But as for the Ice Emperor, it was a 10 points mech. While for Wang Zheng, he was indifferent. Amongst all the mecha which he was familiar with, the Overlord was one of them. Also, after seeing how Olivius had used it, he felt that it was very exciting. And he seemed to have understood something from the battle just now. His intuition told him that using the Overlord to verify it would be even better. The two mecha entered the battlefield. Everyone was curious and were also feeling strange about Wang Zheng's decision. Was it really possible for someone to be an expert at so many types of mecha, especially when his opponent was Snowly? The Ice Emperor was perfectly sleek. It was a mix between a warrior and a scout. Once it appeared, it would emit cold gusts of air. This mech was exceptionally invincible in the environment of the Hail Cloud Alliance. Whoosh! The beam saber was unsheathed by the Ice Emperor, while on the other hand, the pike of the Overlord was also taken out. Both mecha were not moving, only the rumbling of their engines was heard. At the sound of the gunshot, both mechas started at the same time, and were charging towards each other at high speed. It was evident that the speed of the Ice Emperor was faster. The distance between the two sides was shortened to 30 meters in a flash. Looking at such attitudes, a fiery fight would likely erupt right away. The Ice Emperor, which could move at a higher speed, started to attack, but this distance. Could it be that Snow Lee was too anxious? Even though she was still 10 meters away, she slashed down with her beam saber. Was she going to slash the air? A strong, ice-cold gust of air immediate shot out. This was a person with a C-rank ability X. Once Snow Lee came up to fight, she would be totally serious. Even if Wang Zheng's reaction was fast, the reaction of the Overlord could not keep up. The cold air immediately hit the Overlord squarely. Attempting to use his gigantic shield to block a loud boom resounded. The intense cold air immediately caused a layer of frost to form on the surface of the shield, and just as Wang Zheng was about to take another action, a laser rifle was already aiming at him. Boom, boom, boom. The Ice Emperor aimed directly at the Overlord, who was confined, and launched laser attacks at him. This set of consecutive attacks caused the opponent to be unable to retaliate at all. However, the Overlord mech of Wang Zheng not only did not retreat, but the gigantic shield was pointed towards the direction of the laser attacks as it continued moving forward. Its fierceness and toughness were matchless. Boom! The Overlord suddenly moved forward and its pike attacked outwards, but Snow Lee already responded in an unhurried manner, and her beam saber clashed. It was only their first exchange, but Wang Zheng already felt that something was not right. The cold air was too intense and the mech could not defend against it. The ability X had already permeated through. The entire Ice Emperor was emitting intense, cold air. In the IG, once you reached C rank, you would be considered strong. As a result, it was a miracle for Lai Xin to win, having overturned the situation just now. And for Snow Lee, her level was definitely higher than that of Xu Dongsheng. Also, after reaching C rank, how long the ability could last would also become different. For Snow Lee, she was the Snow Fairy, and out of all her present IG battle members, she was also the member who was most skillful at using her ability X. The battle became Snow Lee's personal show. Every sword attack struck at the right place, and the Overlord could not react. Actually, in Wang Zheng's hands, the Overlord would normally have been able to inhibit these little moves, but her ability X consistently suppressed him. This was the scariest part about Snow Lee. Regardless of how outstanding your skills were, or how great your consciousness was, they would not be able to be exhibited at full potential. Snow Lee was not anxious to push for a victory, as Wang Zheng had not used his ability X. If she was not careful, she might fail at the last minute. Fortunately, the Overlord was good at defense and was still able to defend itself against the Ice Emperor's attacks. The primordial regression technique was revolving within Wang Zheng's body, but even student Wang was a little depressed. Why wasn't it working? He was able to understand the operation of the flame arts, and it was on a much lower grade than the primordial regression technique. With the strength of the primordial regression technique, he should be able to produce the same effect, and in that case, it would be able to restrain the cold air of Snow Lee. But many times, it was difficult to turn thoughts into reality. If other people knew what Wang Zheng was thinking, they would definitely think that he was insane. How could one be able to master an ability X just because he wanted to? What's more, this was done at the last minute. The cold air continued to sting Wang Zheng's body. However, Wang Zheng did not avoid it, as sometimes his body was unresponsive. If he did not give it some pressure, it would not give in or strengthen his body potential. This kind of abnormal stimulation also emerged from the special trainings by Bonehead. The daredevil attitude of Wang Zheng could not be compared with ordinary people. Wang Zheng, why aren't you using your ice ability? Aren't you a person with an ice ability X? Why aren't you using it? Or are you looking down on me? Snow Lee shouted. Her beam saber's strikes had become increasingly more violent. It was the first time where many people had heard this, including the people of the solar system team. There were a lot of them who did not know that Wang Zheng possessed an ice ability X. Meng Tian and the rest looked at each other in dismay. Snow Lee was also extremely mysterious. Just how did she know about this? On the other hand, Meng Tian had also benefited after seeing the attacks of Snow Lee. Her ability to manipulate ice was really a far cry from Snow Lee's. This battle had indeed opened a door for Meng Tian, as it showed her that her ability X could be used like this too. It was as though a whole new realm had been opened in front of her. The greatest unique characteristic of ice was not its ability to kill or injure, but its restraint on movement. Using this as a battle support would definitely be able to reap wonderful effects, and even an expert like Wang Zheng was not able to display his skills. Everyone was somewhat anxious. Wang Zheng was already retreating in defeat, step by step, from the attacks. Lai Xin was even more anxious, as only fire attribute ability X's would be able to deal with such an ice ability. However, even if Wang Zheng did possess a similar type of ability X, it would likely not be stronger than Snow Lee's, who was born in the year of the dancing ice dragon. She was indeed the ice fairy, and there was nothing which she did not understand when it came to ice abilities. Seeing Wang Zheng silently defending, Snow Lee was also speechless. If this went on, he would freeze to death. Her ice ability had the effect of moistening objects silently. If it continuously permeated through his body, by the time one realized it, his body would be done for. Snow Lee was pretty disappointed. After watching the S-rank mission video her general had given her, she had developed an indescribably good impression of this average guy. It was the one man who had the dominance to hold the pass against 10,000 enemies, and he had deeply excited Snow Lee. What was especially exciting was that the other party also had an ice ability X. Was it fate? Hence, from the start, Snow Lee had a good impression of Wang Zheng. She had also hoped that this battle would become a story that captured everyone's imaginations and would be spread far and wide. However, why was it that reality was always different from one's imagination? Was this really the same person who was in the video? The Overlord was being beaten like a tortoise. It was staggering and retreating step by step. It was forcefully trying to endure the attacks. Yet how much longer would it be able to do so? He could have obviously used the stronger golden wheel. Was he brainless? There should be a limit to one's pretentiousness. In Lear's ice-cold gaze lay an additional tinge of excitement. He had been waiting for this opportunity for too long. The result of his battle was not important, because so long as Wang Zheng fell, he would then be able to stand up. Otherwise, no matter how much he did, it would be just working hard for others. The restraining factor was even more serious for same-type abilities. As long as one side was slightly stronger, the opposite party would stand no chance at all. They would be competing based on their understanding, and the fact that Wang Zheng did not dare to use his ability in front of Snow Lee demonstrated his inferiority. This was the disparity between the two. He had been thoroughly restrained. What is happening with Wang Zheng? Is this the same person? He was so domineering before. How did he become an ostrich who is unable to confront his opponent? Could it be that his injuries have not yet fully recovered? Then why did he force himself to come up for the battle? Aren't there two other experts in the solar system? I heard that the internal disputes of the solar system are terrible. Tisk, it's so rare that they had become so strong, but then they are not united internally. What a pity. This is also because Wang Zheng is inadequate at handling his team. What's more, if it was because of personal feelings that actually resulted in him making such a judgment, it would show that he is not fit to be a team leader. The tongues of everyone were wagging. Everything was done to win, as winning was everything in the IG. The original reason as to why the IG existed had already disappeared in the sands of time. To swap pointers, to improve. What was this, a fantasy story? But who knew that for the Solar System Federation team, the most important thing was not the results of this IG. The most important things were the experiences and improvements that they gained from this whole journey. Every team member had had the chance to go up for battle. Everyone's ability and willpower had been hammered into shape. They were no longer rookies who just started. They had experienced struggles and trials, for Lai Xin, Zhang Shan, and Lai Guangge. What most people saw was the outside appearance, and they always neglected the actual essence of the individual. The Overlord, which was retreating in defeat, was still trying to struggle. However, it could be seen that Snow Lee had only used 60% of her strength, and this battle was about to end like this. At this moment, Olivius, who had been keeping silent, suddenly stood up. He was not looking at the screen, but he walked towards the window and gazed closely. To be more precise, Olivius seemed as though he had some suspicions as to what was going on. A short distance away, Bordia and Asias of Atlantis were seen standing there. It was unknown how long they had been there for. There are mental wave fluctuations consolidating around Hema, but why is he not releasing them? Asias felt that the scene was a little strange. How could a human possess this type of overbearing mental power? This was too rare, but it seemed as though Wang Zheng did not know how to fully utilize his gifts. Perhaps he is using the ice energy of his opponent to practice something, Bordia said. The Atlantis team leader was getting more and more curious. Even he would not experiment at this stage. Snow Lee was really frustrated. The greater her expectations, the greater her disappointments. Maybe this was just how life was. Let's end this. Snow Lee was still unwilling to humiliate the first ever opponent which she had thought highly of. Even when she fought Olivius, she did not have such feelings towards him. Olivius was indeed very strong, a match for 10,000 enemies, but what truly moved Snow Lee was how Wang Zheng never gave up, despite the odds. In terms of looks, Olivius was slightly more handsome, but the current situation seemed to have shown that she had made an error of judgment. Cold, icy energy burst out with the lash of a saber strike. The Overlord repeatedly retreated. It seemed like it was not able to remain operational for much longer. She raised her beam saber up into the air, preparing to deal the final blow. Cold energy condensed around the saber furiously. Up till now, Snow Lee had been continuously exerting her ability X, and there was no sign of it weakening or running out. The team members of the Hail Cloud Alliance were full of pride. This was the power of the one born with the blessings from the Ice Dragon. The ability X of Snow Lee was unique and unmatched. It was not one which ran out of steam so quickly. Ice explosion. The saber sliced downwards, and rays of lights were radiating all around the beam saber. A devastating strike supported by overbearing ice energy flew towards Wang Zheng. This was the perfect combination of an ability X and a weapon. However, it was just that Snow Lee appeared even more powerful than before, her blow even showing signs of warping the space around Hera. The Overlord raised its shield. Wang Zheng was still trying to block the blow. Furthermore, he did not plan to activate his energy shield. It seemed that even activating the energy shield would be useless. The ability X would still penetrate through. The ice energy inside his body had already accumulated and would definitely erupt upon being hit by this move. Everyone could not help but to sigh. This had just been a big show. Even though they had known that the miracle would come to an end, in any case, Wang Zheng should have fought harder. However, Olivius suddenly opened his eyes, his sharp gaze piercing into the distance. Facing the cold energy that was attacking him, the primordial regression technique of Wang Zheng finally reacted. In the past, the intimate contact with Meng Tian had given rise to him being able to use an ice ability X. Since then, it was fairly difficult to make a breakthrough. What he had done was like placing himself on a field of death so that he would be forced to fight to live. Boom! The disappointed eyes of the audience suddenly reignited. Raging flames could be seen on the gigantic shield, and they were burning strongly. Fire ability X? Everyone was in a craze. As for those generals, they even jumped up straight away and looked at each other in dismay. Were they seeing things? How was this possible? They undoubtedly had seen that Wang Zheng had once used an ice ability X, and it was absolutely impossible for a person's body to be able to endure these two types of opposing abilities. The gigantic shield of the Overlord was a glowering red, and that fierce saber attack from Snow Lee had been completely defended against. Snow Lee was also stunned. Wasn't he someone with an ice ability X? Olivius showed an exaggerated smirk from the corner of his mouth. Interesting, this was really interesting. There was actually someone who was a freak like him in this world. Zhang Shan and the rest looked at each other in dismay. There was nobody else who knew better than them that Wang Zheng only had an ice ability X. Since when did it become fire? The hall was in an uproar. They simply could not accept what was happening before their eyes. The Overlord slowly stood up. Sorry for holding you up. We can now begin. This breakthrough held a great significance to Wang Zheng as it validated his way of thinking. That ability X could be learned and developed. The birth of the ice ability was not incidental, it was just that the process was a little twisted. Snowly was shocked, but she smiled sweetly. As expected, she would naturally be attracted to one who was so outstanding. And with his breakthrough, this courage he possessed thoroughly defied the natural order of things. Wang Zheng, if you think that you will be able to defeat me by possessing Fire Ability X, then you are gravely mistaken. The Ice Phoenix engraved on the Ice Emperor mech was twinkling with strong rays of light. The color of the whole mech was changing. It actually changed into a frozen blue color. And at the same time, the temperature outside also suddenly dipped. The Ice Emperor mech switched to its combat mode. Previously, it was in its base mode, meant for general-purpose situations. As the trump card of the Hail Cloud Alliance, if it was merely so ordinary, it would not have been able to be considered their trump card. The Hail Cloud Alliance had long discovered this type of cold ore since its inception, but it was just that they could not find a way to make use of it. It was only after it was found to be compatible with Ability X, together with the conduction through G material, that it really gave rise to its transformational aspects. Cold ore was also an uncommon type of mineral resource. It was unique to the Hail Cloud Alliance, and the output was extremely low. Some of it was added to the Hail Cloud Alliance mecha, and as for the Ice Emperor, which was their trump card, 30% of it was made of the cold ore. And once it was activated, there would be an outburst of energy from the cold ore. And the effect was even more surprising under the stimulation by Snowly. Unknowingly, the ground had already been covered in a thin layer of ice, and the sky started snowing. Nobody would have expected that a battle that seemed like it was about to end had only truly started. And it was unexpected that Snowly could be so strong. All along, people had thought that Olivius was not willing to hit a woman, or it was out of his other considerations, which resulted in him not using his full strength. But looking at the situation now, it seemed that everyone was wrong. Snowly was indeed the super warrior that emerged once every century in the Hail Cloud Alliance. Snowly was like a proud ice snow phoenix that definitely blossomed in front of the opponent that she admired. What everyone was concerned about was whether the fire ability that Wang Zheng had just utilized would be able to withstand against the strongest of ice abilities. It was a sudden realization that Wang Zheng seemed to hold no advantage at all. Would such a newfound ability be able to compete against the Icy Empress? Buzz! A white whirlpool appeared in the torso of the Ice Emperor mech. It generated a strong, attractive force and freezing ability, and it seemed as though it was building up energy. The frost and snow which had appeared just now were not just for show. They were actually there to foreshadow the strongest attack of the Ice Emperor mech. The area covered by the freezing air immediately increased by multiple times. It was not simply just a decrease in physical temperature. The ability to defend against cold temperatures would not be lacking for any type of mech. It was just that this attack was simply terrifying. After all, metals were still metals. Once penetrated by freezing air, not only would it not be able to defend against cold, but also it would become the best conductor. This was something that could not be dodged nor blocked. The outside of the battlefield had already become Snowly's world. This was Snowly's most unfathomable strike, a absolute zero flame. There was no way for one to understand it. The reason why it was called a flame was due to the effect where if the attack struck, the temperature was so cold such that even one's skin would immediately break apart and die, much like being burned. An entire radius of a few hundred meters had been sealed off. The silver hair of Snowly, who was in the Ice Emperor, was sparkling with radiance. She seemed just like an icy snow goddess. The terrifying freezing air started flaring up, and it completely drowned the Overlord mech. Let's not say one Overlord, even if it was 10 or 20 of those mecha, they would all be submerged in this cold air. This was an indiscriminate large-scale attack which did not differentiate friend from foe. Bang! Amidst the white and cold air, a ray of red light flashed out, and for an instant, time stopped for a second. In the next moment, a ray of white light erupted and dispersed. It soared into the sky and an explosion occurred. Both the sky and the ground were shaking. Even though it was 100 meters away, the windows of nearby buildings still exploded into pieces. Two waves of energy, one cold and one hot, swept across the many people watching. C-rank fire ability against C-rank ice ability. The power of the collision from this attack was much more ferocious than the one produced by Olivia's shockwave. And of course, this was the result of the superposition of abilities and collision between ice and fire. After a long time, the waves of energy dispersed completely. The two mecha were still standing still, seemingly undamaged. It was just that everything beneath them had been destroyed. Both mecha did not move. Who had won and who had lost? Were they still going to fight? I admit defeat. After quite a while, Snowlee's voice came from the Ice Emperor. The whole audience was still silent because nobody knew why Snowlee had admitted defeat or what had happened just now. Fortunately, the playback appeared on the large screen just in time. The screen showed the energy waves, and the difference on the energy meters showed the energy and strength emitted by both parties when attacking. For the Ice Emperor of Snowlee, the destructive power was the greatest within a 10 to 20 meters range. If it was too far or too close, it would have reduced the destructive power of her move significantly. This move of absolute zero fire was known as her finishing move, and only Snowlee was able to put it to use. But for Wang Zheng, his ability X's effect was more concentrated. There was a fixed range to kill or injure, and it was only approximately 10 meters or so. However, the outcome of the battle relied on this point. The Ice Emperor mech of Snowlee was unable to move or defend, whereas for the Overlord mech of Wang Zheng could concentrate and launch his attack directly onto Snowlee, considering the short distance between them at the end. Why? The Overlord had used its sky rocket cannon, and in the instant when the Overlord mech landed, it was about give meters away from the mech, and not in a place where the Ice Emperor mech's attack would be strongest. This was obviously something which Wang Zheng understood about the Ice ability X, hence he moved the way he did. However, he did not directly attack the Ice Emperor mech. Once hit directly, Snowlee would definitely have faced a horrible death. Boss is so mighty. He really is a lady killer. Even at this moment he is still having tender and protective feelings for this lady. At this moment, the one who was most understanding about amorous feelings was naturally Tyrant Su. The guy was still immeasurably self-satisfied. Who am I kidding? Boss would always give in to some extent against a beautiful lady. Winning or losing, it was something that Tyrant Su was never at a loss about. He was someone who had seen skeletons emergence in court. What situation had he not seen before? IG was just a small occasion, and some of the magnificent moves could not be compared to court at all. As for the difficulty level, it was not something an amateur player like Tyrant Su would consider a. Whether or not he was being lenient, only the person involved knew. Wang Zheng could have possibly hit the target directly, but it could also be that he was unable to control it. However, everyone who was present knew clearly that with Wang Zheng's strength, it was impossible that he was unable to control it. It was just that he was unwilling to kill. Thinking back to how brutal Wang Zheng was with exterminating Zerg, the old general of the Hail Cloud Alliance was secretly praying and thanking the Ice Snow Goddess. If any unexpected mishap fell on Snowlee, he would have become a sinner. On the side of the Hail Cloud team, they were not dispirited at all. They were in a really good mood, especially since Snowlee had only suffered minor injuries. Their hearts were full of thanks. Even though the position of Snowlee in Hail Cloud was not as exaggerated as Aina in Aslan, she had also caught the eyes of many. Wang Zheng and Snowlee were pulled out almost the same time by the staff. Student Wang was still alright when compared to Snowlee, who was clearly extremely weak at this point. Wang Zheng, on the other hand, seemed to be in high spirits. With such a monstrous body, it indeed made those who saw the scene feel pretty fearful. He was like a cockroach that you could never get rid of. Did he even freaking know what being tired meant? But the way Snowlee looked at Wang Zheng was full of tender feelings. That was how a girl was. When she admired a guy, a favorable first impression was most important. And what's more, Wang Zheng had defeated her. And at the most crucial moment, he still spared her. It would be tough for Snowlee not to fall for him. Logically, if a battle was unfinished, one would still remain as enemies, but Snowlee still took the initiative and went forward. Team leader Wang Zheng, I have benefited a lot from this battle and it has really broadened my horizons. I hope that we will have more chances to interact in the future. A beautiful lady took the initiative and reached out. Wang Zheng touched his nose. Naturally he should not be lacking in manners, Buddha Saya. At this instant, on the side of the Solar System Federation team, roaring cheers were heard. Not only had Wang Zheng won the battle, he had also won the respect of his opponent. This was awesome. The battle between the Hail Cloud Alliance and the Solar System Federation truly possessed a little hint of competition. F***ck, Wang Zheng, since when did you possess Fire Ability X? Don't tell me it was an impromptu development? Aren't you someone with an ice ability? Suddenly, there was an onslaught of questions attacking him like a tide. But very soon, they were commanded to move away by the people of Aslan. The fact was that the battle had not yet ended, and the solar system also had not won this competition. There was still the most crucial round. It was obvious that both parties needed a 5-minute break. For the first time, the quarter-finals battles entered into a team battle selection. F***ck, Wang Zheng, you were too awesome. Did you see how Snowly looked at you? It was obvious that she wanted to pay you instead of getting paid. So, actually, the way of a king was to have tender and protective feelings for a lady. Hee. Zhang Shan prostrated himself in admiration. Beautiful lady, kneel down and say that you are conquered by me. Actually, all right, you're a real man of character. No need to say any more. For a superb, beautiful lady like Snowly, if it was anyone else, nobody would dare to put one's hand on her too. Zhang Shan and the rest around him gave Wang Zheng no chance of explanation at all. Wang Zheng was depressed. He had actually wanted to say that it was his first time using this move, and because he felt a little dizzy from using the sky rocket cannon, he wasn't able to respond appropriately to her. After the 2 rounds of battles were over, it seemed that the situation was leaning towards the Solar System Federation team's side. Even Wang Zheng defeating Snowly was not considered something that was super startling. After all, he had given people lots of surprises at the beginning, and every time, he was able to win in an unexpected manner, hence this was something not as startling. Without a doubt, he had become the focus of attention once again. Many of the people present knew that Wang Zheng had an Ice Ability X, even though he had not used it in public before. However, suddenly, in this battle he used a Fire Ability X. What's more, this ability was at the C rank. Having 2 types of completely opposing abilities was really too rare. Now that the Solar System Federation team had 2 points, it was time for Wang Zheng to make his choice next. Leader Wang Zheng, do you choose to continue with a 1v1 battle or a team battle? The referee of the Milky Way Alliance asked. Wang Zheng gave a little smile and looked at Snowly. Team battle. Everyone was whispering to one another. This was the first team battle of this IG with actual significance. It was unexpected that it would be initiated by the Solar System Federation. The referee was very indifferent. The team leaders of both sides, please choose 5 team members for the battle and the mecha that will be needed. After that, we will go for a half-time break, and the team battle will begin in an hour. The venue of the team battle was different, but the basic mode of the battle used the commonly used team battle mode in the Milky Way. Both the red and blue teams were to defend an energy source respectively. The IG used energy source that would be able to support 12 members in energy recharge. The strategy was to defeat their opponents or to destroy the opponent's energy source to attain victory. As there was absolutely no way one could win stealthily, the former was basically the normal way to attain victory. Of course, it did not rule out the notion of sacrificing lives to attain victory through the latter. This was mainly to test the commanding ability of the team leader, the executing ability of the team members, and the on-the-spot responses of both parties. It very much demonstrated one's ability to understand the situation and the individual ability of everyone in the team. Merely being bolder may not mean that one would be able to attain victory, because if they were not careful, the mistake of one person would lead the whole team to be destroyed. In the military, individual ability would be prized. But in reality, one's leadership ability was the way of the king. During team battles, the little details would determine success or failure. So, team battles were only added in at the final stages, as at the same time, team battles also put each team to the test to see how they would do in future. Yet at the same time, there were no tricks possible for team battles. Even Wang Zheng and the rest had attended a class for tactical training. It was for them to understand the common strategies used in these battles. But the most important thing was still putting it into use in reality. Generally speaking, team battles were what the Solar System Federation team was the least good at. This was because they had never undergone real combat drills. Wang Zheng's choice caused Meng Ao and the rest to be flabbergasted. Why is this fellow causing trouble? This is absolutely challenging how much my heart is able to endure. This is our weakest area. We should be running away from it. But why are we initiating it instead? Dramok had a big headache. The reason why they had not focused training in this area was because they had thought that it was absolutely impossible for them to enter the quarter-finals. That was why they were only lectured on the concepts. Wang Zheng was great, he had just gotten the opportunity to win, but he had thrown it away. And for the Hail Cloud Alliance team, who was already a little low in morale, this ignited raging flames in them. Their chance had come. The Hail Cloud Alliance was one of the teams that were good at team battles, and their strength was definitely in one of the top 5. Of course, for the teams currently, except for the Solar System Federation team, the rest of the teams all had experience in team battles, and even their rapport and coordination were also fairly high. Lear and Achilles looked at each other. They were indeed helpless when it came to Wang Zheng's choices. This fellow was absolutely daring, challenging his limits again and again. Why is everyone looking at me like this? Do you think we can't beat the Hail Cloud team? Wang Zheng waved his hands helplessly. If it's a team battle you want, then it's a team battle you get. It will be good to resolve this once and for all, Lear said coldly. Wang Zheng laughed. Very good. Lear, Achilles, Zhang Shan, Meng Tian, and me. Wang Zheng, you have just been through a tough battle. Will you be alright? Don't force yourself, Achilles said. No worries, there is still an hour. I will surely recover fully by then, Wang Zheng said. Lear was slightly shocked. He thought that Wang Zheng was going to exclude him again, but... As for Snow Li on the opposite, even though she was slightly injured, as Xu Dongsheng was unable to fight, she still decided to continue to go up for the battle. It was clear that undergoing some simple treatment for an hour would be sufficient for her to exhibit 80% of her strength. And this would still leave her much stronger than her average team members. Solar System Team. Wang Zheng, Lear, Achilles, Zhang Shan, Meng Tian. Hail Cloud Alliance Team. Snow Li, Farquhar, Li Yun, Zhao Qingyu, Galels. Even though they had lost their vanguard, Xu Dongsheng, there was also not much difference in strength between the vice team leader, Farquhar, and Li Yun. It was just that the morale of the Hail Cloud Alliance was slightly low. Snow Li was very clear that this was their last chance. If they were able to win this, the momentum of the solar system would be overturned. However, if they lost, the IG this year would also come to an end for them. Even though they had already accomplished their goal, nobody would wish to be eliminated. Everyone were discussing their tactics for a while, and at the same time, they also chose their mecha. Lear chose the unbounded sky chains with speed as its strong point. Achilles chose the Moonlit Knight. Zhang Shan chose Aslan's Glorious Knight. It was a warrior-type mecha, and mainly it was to match with Zhang Shan's space and time warping ability. Meng Tian chose the Earth's special version of the Parsons Falcon. It came with a crossbow, and its special characteristic was that its crossbow arrows possessed extremely strong penetration abilities. It was especially targeted to cause harm to energy shields. As for Wang Zheng, he chose the Golden Wheel. Actually, he still wanted to choose the Hercules. However, after considering the mobility of the Hercules, he had decided that he should forget it. After all, victory was still important. Hercules was more defensive than offensive. Furthermore, it would be easily suppressed in a team battle. However, using the Golden Wheel would be able to ensure victory. As the team leader, victory was still the #1 task. After seeing that Wang Zheng had chosen the Golden Wheel, the whole audience was extremely quiet. Initially, they were discussing the results enthusiastically, but suddenly, they all quietened down. Zhang Shan turned and asked, what happened? Why did everyone stop talking? The Hail Cloud Alliance side was having a headache. It was obvious that they had heard about how terrifying this mech of Wang Zheng was, but only Snow Li herself knew how scary it truly was. It was easy to suppress most mecha in a group battle, but what about this one? How could they counter him? Would they use a scout? The scariest thing about a team battle was that your scout might not have the room to exhibit its skills, as they were not as effective in full frontal clashes. After all, the rest of the enemy team were not wooden blocks. When Wang Zheng chose the Golden Wheel, Snow Li, who was originally full of confidence, suddenly felt disheartened. I cannot be like this. I definitely cannot be like this. Snow Li told herself that she must not concede defeat in her heart, as she was the team leader of the Hail Cloud team. As much as possible, try to choose tank types, or those types with energy shields that are strengthened, Snowly said, clenching her pearly white teeth. She had never, ever felt so at a loss. Leadera, if that's the case, we would lose all our mobility, we would be restrained. We will beat them through steady suppression, Snowly said. With their cooperation, perhaps they would have a chance if they formed a domineering firepower wall against the Solar System Federation team and to restrain them this way. Even if they would not be able to defeat Wang Zheng, it would be alright if they were able to attain victory. Few people had witnessed the prowess of the Golden Wheel for themselves. Other than the S-Class mission, Wang Zheng had only used the Golden Wheel to defeat Vincent. That battle was indeed brilliant and beyond comparison. However, there were very little people who appreciated the skill involved. The situation this time was once again different, and the Golden Wheel would be facing the Hail Cloud Empire. Would the ability X's of the Hail Cloud Empire cause a disturbance for Wang Zheng? The Hail Cloud Empire all chose their mecha, including Snowly herself. All of them chose mecha that leaned towards defense, and she herself had chosen the Ice Bear King mech. This was considered slightly lighter amongst the tank-type mecha, while it still possessed an extra strong energy shield. Everyone was also speechless after seeing the choices of the Hail Cloud Empire. Must the battle arrangement of both sides be so exotic? There was not a single heavy armor on the Solar System Federation side, all of them were brittle, so brittle that it was a complete mess. As for the other side, it was extremely hardy. Almost all of them were tank types, so they were awfully heavy and cumbersome. What was going on? The Hail Cloud Empire, who had always relied mainly on attacking, was going to play defensively and counterattack. Looking at the battle formation of the Solar System Federation, it seemed quite challenging for them if they wanted to break through the defense of the battle formation of the Hail Cloud Empire. It would be a test of the IQ and strategy amongst the two team leaders. During the preparation of the competition, Snowly underwent some simple treatments. It seemed that the pride of the Snow Country had no intention of giving up. The first team battle of the IG was about to begin. All the participating players were transported over to the battleground quickly using helicopters. This was a forested area of a military base. The mecha that were going to be used for the battle were all well prepared, and the terrain was unfamiliar to both sides. However, the distance between the two parties was only 2 kilometers. Even if the terrain was complicated, it was also not a problem as the two parties were almost directly exposed and easily detected under radar. It was impossible to even think of launching an ambush or sneak attack. The warriors of both sides entered their mecha one after another. They were waiting for the battle to begin. During the waiting time, the Solar System Federation also simply put into order their tactics all at once. Looking at the choices of the Hail Cloud Alliance, they knew that their opponents were terrified. There were more than 10 helicopters in the end to monitor the whole battle situation. Everyone who was in the stadium was able to view the battle from many different angles, so they would not miss any marvelous scenes. It was just that it was unexpected for the majestic Hail Cloud Alliance to be terrified to such an extent. Facing the Solar System Federation team, they had actually all chosen defensive type mecha. What's more, they even withdrew near to their energy source. They were planning to turtle shamefully. Even the representatives of the Hail Cloud Empire who were present were also slightly embarrassed. Even though in terms of tactics there was nothing much to be terrified about, this indeed caused them to not feel as exhilarated as they would have been otherwise. It would have been alright for them to be like this if they were facing Atlantis, but facing the Solar System Federation team, this was pretty unnecessary. Even though they had lost 2 rounds, there was no need for them to lose their momentum too. However, it was evident that Snowly was unmoved, and her team members also completely obeyed her commands. This was probably what the prestige of Snowly could achieve. For other teams, such terror would usually cause the team members to fall apart, not leaving any fighting strength left. The terrain was not too complex. The Parsons Falcon mech of Meng Tian came with the best systems when it came to detecting opponent mecha. And as the sniper, all the information on the battlefield would be passed to her and subsequently she would relay any information to the rest of the team appropriately. Wang Zheng, the people of the Hail Cloud are really just lying near their energy source tower. It seems that they have no intention of attacking. Meng Tian said. The opponent's mecha were standing in silence. It seemed that they were waiting idly for opportunities. Let's attack them. The more terrified they are, the better it is for us to display our skills, Zhang Shan roared. He was already unable to wait any longer. There is no such thing as an absolute defense. It would be beneficial for us to attack. However, to prevent them from playing any tricks, we should still be careful, and we should especially take note of their ability X's. Lear said. They should had brought Luo Fei along. The ability of that guy when it came to scouting was better, while Zhang Shan was completely useless. As long as the opponent did not mount a sneak attack, they would have a chance of victory. The advancement of the Solar System Federation team towards the enemies was not fast, as this was to ensure that no one would fall into the opponent's hands while they were advancing forward. As the battlefield range was not big, the possibility of this was indeed close to zero. And as they were entering the area of battle, Wang Zheng was also more at ease. He snapped his fingers, and Lear and Achilles had already advanced forward. Actually, their tactics were also quite unique. Strong attacks were one method. However, the Hail Cloud Alliance was not that weak. Zhang Shan was the trump card, and his use was for sudden attacks. This meant that when the battle situation was the most intense, he would use his space warping ability to launch a long-range raid on the opponent's energy source tower directly, and end the whole battle. Hence, Zhang Shan did not have to bear too much responsibility for the battle. Once the two parties entered battle, lasers started flying in every direction. In an instant, the Hail Cloud Alliance focused their attacks and were firing at Achilles and Lear, and it caused the both of them to retreat right away. There were limitations for ability X, so it did not mean that they were unrivaled. Facing the dominant firepower of the opponent, it was impossible for the both of them to charge into them. Both sides were attacking one another with lasers, and after a short few minutes, everyone found out that something was not right. The Solar System Federation started retreating. They were completely unable to keep the situation under control. Both Lear and Achilles were even more furious. They were actually unable to charge over. There was nothing they could do, as the opponents had heavy armor mecha. Even though their mobility was weak, their firepower was ferocious. But the most crucial thing was that this bunch of people all had ice ability X's, so if you were hit, your speed would immediately be reduced. And if you were a little slow, you would immediately be bombed to death. Even your energy shield would be of no use at all. This was live ammunition and not a rehearsal. You would die when fired at from every direction. Even though mecha research nowadays had been focusing greatly on trying their best to protect the safety of the pilots, mecha being bombarded by heavy weaponry was still very dangerous, and nobody would want to play with their life. The battle formation of the Hail Cloud Alliance was pretty good. Under the command of Snow Lee, they were advancing forward step by step. The terrain was also not complicated. The obstacles were not enough to block their path. And they did not need speed whatsoever. They were just going to attack like this, to crush the enemies resolutely. Lear and Achilles were definitely not bad. However, the Hail Cloud Alliance were also not rookies. Any team that had managed to enter the quarter-finals should not be underestimated, but the Solar System Federation was not as strong as they were thought to be. Lear and Achilles had tried several times to advance, but each and every attempt forced them to retreat back to square one and even depleted their energy shields for nothing. As for Snow Lee on the opposite side, she was perfectly calm and collected in commanding her team. It was evident that she had predicted such a situation. Calling for a team battle with the Hail Cloud team, it was all thanks to Wang Zheng who thought of it. Cold ice ability together with heavy firepower, this was the nemesis of team battles. Being stifled by the Hail Cloud Alliance, the Solar System Federation could only retreat step by step. At this moment, flaunting brute courage would be useless. The attacks of Meng Tian were very sharp and incisive. She was definitely skilled with long-distance attacks, and it also gave the Hail Cloud Alliance quite a surprise. But it would not be so easy for them to be suppressed. The firepower of one person was obviously not enough. Wang Zheng, we can't continue on like this. If they advance any further forward to our backline, they will be able to attack and destroy our energy source tower forcefully with their dominant firepower. The energy shield of the energy source tower will not be able to withstand for long. If only you guys could pin down the opponents for a while, then I could try a breakthrough of forcefully using 2 consecutive warps. If I can make a breakthrough, then their battle formation would break apart. Zhang Shan said. This was also the initial plan they had formulated, it was just that they had not expected to be forced into such a passive position. Let's try it then. Lear, Achilles, and I will keep everything under control at the front. Meng Tian, you will control the situation and try your best to cover us. Zhang Shan, as we try to attract sufficient firepower, you will go into action. Don't worry, I am waiting to make a name for myself through one match. Zhang Shan laughed without any smiling expression. It was obvious that he was also concentrating with his full attention as the situation was not too good. The opponents controlled their distance very well. They were not allowing the Golden Wheel to have any chance to display its skills. The laser firepower of the Golden Wheel was just so-so. If not for the freezing abilities of the opponents, they would probably have charged over long ago. This tactic of the Hail Cloud Alliance was annoying and shameless. Even if the opponent had a terrifying ability, what use would it be if it could not be used? After 3 seconds, the solar system mecha rumbled forward. Wang Zheng was in the middle, while Lear and Achilles attacked outwards from the sides respectively. They were advancing forward relying on forceful maneuvering to dodge, and they were attacking and dodging at the same time. It was evident that the Hail Cloud Alliance had discovered the motive of the Solar System Federation team. They dispersed their battle formation, and lasers poured down in torrents. Meng Tian also went in front to keep everything under control at the front line. Everything would depend on Zhang Shan now. Wang Zheng himself was also seizing the opportunity to keep everything under control. The strength of the Hail Cloud team spoke for itself, and if he wanted to show off the formidable power of the Golden Wheel, he knew that he had to close the distance. Actually, even if they continued with 1v1 battles, it was also not likely for the Solar System Federation to continue with an upper hand. There would definitely be assurance by Lear and Achilles, however, that would still be insufficient for winning 5 points in total. Essentially, the problem of an unbalance in the team was still unresolved, hence choosing a team battle was the last resort. Looking at the persistent ability X's of the opponents, there were at least 3 people with D rank and above ice abilities in the Hail Cloud Alliance, and this was unfathomable to the Solar System Federation. Zhang Shan would have to break the siege with one move, and he would draw close with another move. Lear and Achilles were indeed exceptional, however, the cold ice abilities had brought about great troubles for them. The energy shields were able to defend against attacks, but not the freezing energy. And once the speed of the mecha was reduced, they were in huge danger. Zhang Shan fled frantically, and the people of the Hail Cloud team also realized that and immediately attacked towards him. Without any hesitation, Zhang Shan utilized his ability X and the figure of his mech disappeared from his opponent's field of vision in an instant. Naturally, the people of the Hail Cloud team knew of Zhang Shan's ability, hence they could only add another member's firepower to seal off Zhang Shan. Under the circumstances of dashing and dodging, he was still sealed off by their firepower. Thus, he could not get into range to warp close enough to their energy source tower. While the opponent was focusing on him, just at this moment, student Zhang Shan did a move that was contrary to expectation. Retreat. The Zhang Shan immediately turned around and ran away. Like a fish leaping and flying, he was trying frantically to escape. This series of changes caused everyone to be dumbstruck. Only at this moment, everyone realized one thing. The Golden Wheel of Wang Zheng was almost within range for attacking. Snow Li was stunned for a moment. They had been fooled. Zhang Shan was purposely using his warp ability to attract attention. We've been had. What is fake is real and what is real is fake. This move was very smart. But the purpose of doing this was to send Wang Zheng over? Yes, seems like it. Achilles was slightly in front of Wang Zheng, while Lear was slightly behind him. The purpose of the two of them was to attract fire. However, after this round of sudden attacks, the energy shields of the two of them were almost used up. Meng Tian was already attacking with her full strength, and her ability X was already almost used up. She felt slightly guilty as even though it was the same ability, their opponents had a much greater influence on the battle compared to her. The name of a top-notch team was definitely a fully justified reputation, but the purpose of the entire team attacking was just to send Wang Zheng into optimal attacking range. Warriors of Hail Cloud Alliance, the main master has arrived. Defeat him and this would be our turning point in this battle. Snow Li was in high fighting spirits. Likewise for all the warriors of the Hail Cloud Alliance. They had all been waiting for this moment.